Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So just give me 1 second to get this set up. I planned it out. Should work. Okay. So just a little information. I've worked on this Vyasa Puja book since the mid-'80s. And starting in, 89 when I got here, I was more or less responsible for putting it out for all these years. But this year, I retired from that. I had other services and the devotees wanted to, take over. So it was put together by a different crew. They did a pretty good job, except they miscalculated the timing, and so they weren't able to get books, physical books printed and distributed. Hopefully it'll be remedied next year. But as a departing favor, or whatever you want to call it, they asked me to write the meaning of Vyasa Puja, which I did, and I like to read that. It's got elements of an offering to it, and I included one of my poems in there that you might appreciate. The meaning of Vyasa Puja 2023. Understanding the meaning of Vyasa Puja begins with understanding the full import of the well-known verse Srila Prabhupada chose to begin his introduction to the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. That torch of knowledge, which Srila Prabhupada acknowledged his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had enlightened him with, and which Srila Prabhupada in turn enlightened his disciples with, is the same transcendental knowledge Narada Muni imparted to his disciple, Srila Vyasadeva, who in turn bestowed it upon his disciples and embodied it in the voluminous Vedic library he wrote, culminating with Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada would often describe the bona fide spiritual master as a transparent medium through which the transcendental knowledge could flow down from Lord Krishna himself through the Parampara, unimpeded and undistorted to the submissive disciples eager to hear. So, Vyasa Puja is the formal offering of glorification, worship, and expressions of heartfelt gratitude to Srila Prabhupada on his appearance day, because he is the genuine representative of Vyasadeva. Srila Prabhupada embodies not only the essence of Vedic knowledge Vyasadeva taught, but also his mood of compassion, exemplified by his writing down the Vedas which had previously been taught and received orally, to make the knowledge accessible to the benighted people of Kali Yuga, whose minds would be too disturbed for them to simply hear and remember the words of wisdom. At the urging of his beloved Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada courageously undertook the Herculean task of traveling alone and virtually penniless to the West at an advanced age, founding the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, managing the latter while circling the world 14 times and writing commentated English translations of the essential Bhakti Shastras, the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in the form of a summary study, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And setting up the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust to publish his books, translate them into all the languages of the world, and provide them to his growing legions of disciples so they could study them and distribute them by the millions. Just as attending Mangal Arati and singing the Sri Gurvashtaka should awaken a deep sense of gratitude in the hearts of all devotees present, whether Srila Prabhupada's direct disciples or his grand or great-grand disciples. Every member of ISKCON who participates in the festivities of Sri Vyasa Puja should feel that their real treasure is Srila Prabhupada's boundless mercy, which impelled them to wholeheartedly embrace the spirit of Paradukkha Dukhi and bestow upon all of us the many ways we can nourish our Krishna consciousness in ISKCON. In this vein, I've written the following poem, the Srila Prabhupada Kripashtaka. Trapped within samsara's all-devouring blazing fire, we had no hope of rescue, till your Guru's strong desire inspired and empowered you to boldly cross the sea and teach the truths of bhakti, so some souls would be set free. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Patiently you taught us how to chant the holy name, and how to dance, and how to sing, and what was life's true aim. And thus you gave us Lord Chaitanya's teachings unalloyed, and saved us from the all-devouring Mayavadi void. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. When Krishna Bhakti spread, and you had centers here and there, you introduced the worship of the deities so fair. And soon throughout the world their lordships smiled upon your crew, and nourished strong devotion to themselves and unto you. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Prasadam was your special weapon. No one could resist. Once the Sunday feast had started, no one could desist. Halva, sweet rice, crisp pakoras, sabjis, puris, rice. With these and other preps, you did our tongues and hearts entice. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. The books you showered down upon the masses and on us taught Scripture's sacred essence, bhakti pure and nectarous. And while you wrote, you relished Sri Sri Radha Krishna's name and form and pastimes, qualities, and everlasting fame. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. While managing your ISKCON, with the whole world as your stage, meeting, preaching, traveling like a person half your age, you served their lordships Sri Sri Radha Krishna in your heart, arranging for their pastimes in Vrindavan's secret part. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. The Guru is as good as God, you said, and some were shocked. But you had simply quoted Scripture. You did not concoct. And sure enough, for those who worship you as they would God, the path of bhakti opens wide and joyfully is trod. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. If you bestow your mercy, then Shri Krishna gives his too. But if your mercy is lacking, then there's nothing we can do. So every day we should reflect upon your life sublime and vow to serve you always with our body, words, and mind. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. I pray that my small hymn, though lacking literary worth, presented to remind us of your pastimes on this earth, may find some favor both with you and with your devotees, who hover around your lovely lotus feet like maddened bees. O Prabhupada, I pray that you bestow your mercy now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, okay. So now I'm going to read some selected offerings from the Vyasa Puja book. And just let me, okay. All right, here. So, yeah. First one to read is Bhadri Narayan Swami's. But give me a second here to get it going. All right. All right. Okay. Essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. CCID 1106. Srila Prabhupada, due to his being on the highest level of spiritual realization, could present Krishna consciousness concisely and with great power and impact. This is the potency of an empowered Acharya. Mukunda Maharaj relates how the London devotees were invited to chant on a Dutch radio show. But the radio station would only give Srila Prabhupada a few minutes to speak. When informed of this, Srila Prabhupada replied, "I can explain the whole philosophy in 5 minutes." Before the publishing of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, there were dozens of versions of the Gita in English. However, these had not made one single genuine devotee of Krishna. Yet, when Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is began to circulate, it created hundreds and thousands of dedicated devotees all over the world. Krishna explains the reason why. This is from Bhagavad Gita 4.3. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. In 1974, I was on the campus of the University of Michigan with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. We met a professor who was the chair of the Religious Studies Department. Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked him if he had read the Gita. He replied, "Of course I have." Maharaj followed up, "Did you understand it?" The professor was a little miffed and replied, "Of course I did." Tamal Krishna Maharaj then asked the professor, "So what are you going to do now?" We watched as a look of bewilderment washed over the professor's face. The idea that the Gita was a call to action, that its message demanded serious changes on the part of the reader, had never entered the professor's mind. Harishori Prabhu relates how once, when Srila Prabhupada was having his massage, his secretary read a letter from a professor reviewing Srila Prabhupada's books. The professor wrote, "The books from the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust are beautifully produced. The only problem is that the author only stresses Krishna Bhakti." Close quote. Srila Prabhupada slapped his hand on the massage mat and said, "That is my success. I have written these books in such a way that no one can squeeze any other meaning out of them but devotional service." Brilliant. All right, continuing. At the conclusion of their dialogue, Krishna asks Arjuna, "O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind, and are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled?" Bhagavad Gita 1872. Arjuna replies, "My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions." What is the essence of those instructions by Krishna? Quote, "Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. And abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me." Bhagavad Gita 1865-66. As we said at the beginning, one who has understood the message of the Gita can then explain it to others. Like an expert surgeon, Srila Prabhupada's words, infused with the deepest realizations, can enter the heart of the reader and accomplish the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is that goal? This is from Bhagavatam 1.5.11. That literature which is full with descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant to bring about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu orders, Adi 9:39, "Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death." In a darshan in Detroit in 1975, Srila Prabhupada said, "My disease is that I cannot think small." Srila Prabhupada set as his goal nothing less than to change the downward trajectory of the world and to open wide the floodgates of the golden age of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shortly before leaving for America on the Jaladuta, Srila Prabhupada visited Shantipur to pray for the mercy of Sri Advaita Acharya. The Mahant of the temple narrated how he saw Srila Prabhupada quietly chanting on his beads and crying. As he knew Srila Prabhupada, he inquired, "Why are you crying?" Srila Prabhupada replied, "My spiritual master has given me an impossible mission, but I must try for it." Years later, the Mahant was shown a copy of Back to Godhead magazine by some visiting ISKCON devotees. Looking through it and seeing photos of ISKCON devotees and temples around the world, the Mahant began to exclaim in amazement, "He did it! He actually did it!" Mahatma Prabhu relates how in July of 1970, when Srila Prabhupada visited San Francisco for the Rath Yatra festival, he came to the little ISKCON storefront on Frederick Street. It had a small temple room which was packed full of devotees from all over the West Coast and beyond. When Srila Prabhupada arrived, he hesitated at the front door before entering. Then, when sitting on the Vyasasan, instead of singing Jaya Radha Madhava, he sang the Gurvashtakam prayers. Later in the day, devotees asked Srila Prabhupada why he paused before entering and if there was a specific reason why he sang the prayers to the spiritual masters. Srila Prabhupada replied, "I was inviting my spiritual master and the previous acharyas to come and see the scene." The fact is that Srila Prabhupada's bold and against all odds desire to fulfill the will of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still unfolding before our eyes. The International GBC has a weekly Zoom call, and before wading into the agenda, each week there is a report by a different GBC member about the activities in their area of responsibility for the last year. These short reports are wonderful. Dedicated devotees are producing impressive and innovative results around the world. Hearing of these is like hearing of the churning of the ocean of milk and all the mystical items that come out of it. All right. What's this? Okay, this is it, I think. Hold on. Give me a second here. All right. So here's a quote from CC Adi 9 and 9:11. The Lord brought the desired tree of devotional service to this earth and became its gardener. He sowed the seed and sprinkled upon it the water of his will. The branches of the Chaitanya tree formed a cluster or society, with great branches covering all the universe. Then Maharaj continues, Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport on this verse, on these verses, our International Society for Krishna Consciousness is one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. ISKCON's continuing success depends on the degree to which the branch of ISKCON stays connected to the tree of Lord Chaitanya's will. That connection of empowerment is maintained to the degree that we present Srila Prabhupada's message, standards, and practices without modification or dilution. Srila Prabhupada said in a darshan in Detroit in June of '76, I have given you the structure, just go and decorate it. Actually, I have given you the decorations, just go and hang them. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please let me close with a prayer for your mercy. May we in ISKCON always hold tight to your bold and determined spirit. May we be infused with your faith in the power of the holy name. As you are convinced of the potency of your spiritual master's order, may we have the same confidence in the potency of your orders. May we share your conviction in the guaranteed success of Lord Chaitanya's mission. May we always stay under the shelter of your lotus feet. Your insignificant servant, Bhadinarayan Swami. That was a very nice offering. They're all nice, but this is special. So, continuing reading some of these leading offerings. Sorry. It's a little harder without the physical book, so be patient. All right, continuing, let's see here. Next I'm going to read Giriraj Swami's offering. Okay. My dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances at your divine lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace and to your unparalleled service and mercy. When I joined the Boston Temple in 1969, Satsarup Das was the temple president and also the editor of BTG. And he always wanted articles for the magazine. So I wrote one entitled The Genuine Spiritual Master. And by the time the issue with my article reached you in February of 1971, that's 2 years later, I was with you in Gorakhpur, India. After reading my article, you called for me. The temple room was dimly lit. Only some narrow shafts of light pierced through the slim openings in the wooden shutters along the side. Sitting alone in your on your raised cushion at the far end of the room, you were the very image of the eternal spiritual master, and your voice resonated with the truth of eternal time. I sat at your feet, eyes and ears wide open. I saw your article in Back to Godhead, you said. It was very nice. You should write. This is your first business. Go on writing. We require many, many such articles about Krishna consciousness, so you should devote yourself to writing. I will try, I said, but why are you asking me? I have no special qualification. Prabhupada, we require many to do this work, and we need you also. So you travel with me, and I will guide you. You come and stay with me. I felt thrilled and honored. You had never before given me a direct instruction. In fact, we had hardly ever spoken. And now you were inviting me to stay with you. I felt a little intimidated and wondered how it would work. Also, I had always worked under my authorities. Who would tell them about your proposal? So I asked, how will we decide whether I should travel with you or what I should do? He just got an order, he's asking. You replied, by mutual consultation. And you instructed me, see that my books are accepted in the universities by the scholarly class. Then you asked if I ever thought of getting married. No, I said, I never think of getting married. And after a moment I added, the only time I ever thought of getting married was when I saw that all the GBCs were married. You will never be a GBC, you said. And you continued, it is best to avoid marriage. Sex desire is like an itch. If you have an itch and you scratch it, it just becomes worse. Similarly, sex desire is there, and if you try to satisfy it, it becomes worse. So it is better to tolerate not only sex desire, all the demands of the senses, eating and sleeping also. Better to tolerate. So you remain brahmachari, and after 2 or 3 years, I will give you sannyas. In a matter of 20 minutes, you had given me my whole life's program in Krishna consciousness. I was always thinking of you then. Sometimes at night I couldn't even sleep. I would just be thinking of how wonderful you were. I would stand on the balcony near your room and look out over the surrounding fields at the stars and bright moon. I was in so much ecstasy that you had read my article and invited me to travel with you. And I experienced an awakening in my heart of a type of affection I had never felt before. Over the years, you repeated your instructions for me to write. In a letter to me dated August 12, 1971, you wrote, in the midst of your heavy duties, go on writing something, glorifying the Lord, and put our philosophy into words. Writing articles means to express oneself how he is understanding the whole philosophy. So this writing is necessary for everyone. In 1973, I sent you my Vyasa Puja offering, and on August 23rd, from Bhaktivedanta Manor, you sent me an encouraging note. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter and the nice Vyasa Puja offering you sent. I have sent it to Satsvarup Goswami for printing in the BTG. Writing is a very important part of our work, and Satsvarup is always anxious to have new material from the devotees for expanding the BTG. You have a nice talent for writing, and practice makes perfect, so continue. It will be appreciated. Eventually, the BTG published my offering, in which I described my first meeting with you and how it and you had transformed my life. Sorry. So it's a nice poem, much nicer than mine, of course. Oh, glories to you who have given me light to open my eyes, which were firmly shut tight. When we first came to you in the darkness of night, the words from your lips made everything bright. What is your goal? Godhead to find or God to become? Please make up your mind. If you want to become God, you can't be God now. Can a non-God become God? Please let me know how. God is within you, sitting there in your heart, just waiting for your loving service to start. But if you insist that you want to be Him, you'll be cheating yourself and have nothing to win. If the seed of devotion with chanting you sow, then God will give sunlight to help make it grow. But if to become God remains your ambition, why then should God help His own competition? Krishna is God, and God He is always, on Yashoda's lap or in Dwaraka's hallways. Or in Kurukshetra, He's God all the same. It's not that by yoga the Lord He became. You are a spark, and God is the fire. You can be godly if you truly desire. Your qualities match His, but the quantity is different. For God's nature is infinite, whereas you are insignificant. I cannot be God, for I truly am small, but He kindly allows me to serve Him, that's all. That is His mercy, transcendent and sweet. Take it, be happy, that's all I entreat. Close quote. That was all Prabhupada speaking. Thus your divine grace I was blessed to meet, and thus I was forced to fall at your feet. You poured nectar-like words through the holes of my ears to clean out my heart and vanquish my fears, arousing within me my love for the Lord, my actual life as His servant restored. Now I beg to remain an individual soul, serving the servant of the one Spirit whole. All glories to you who have given me this, a life that's eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, taking me from the darkness, cold and alone, back to Godhead, back to home. So that was his article, his poem for the BTG. So he concludes with a few more words. In recent years, I have edited Life's Final Exam, Death and Dying from the Vedic Perspective, and written Watering the Seed, with teachings from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Many Moons, he's giving the titles then. Reflections on Departed Vaishnavas. I'll Build You a Temple, The Juhu Story. And now, Dancing White Elephants, Traveling with Srila Prabhupada in India, August 1970 to March 1972. So that's still, I think he's still working on that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's banned. There's this history. Believe me, she's right. Hare Krishna. In recent years, I have edited Life's Final Exam. Oh, I read that. On this occasion, I pray to you to bless me that I can continue to serve you, the devotees, and the world by writing about Krishna consciousness in the right consciousness. As you wrote in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19:132, it is certainly not good to write literature for money or reputation, but to write books and publish them for the enlightenment of the general populace is real service to the Lord. That was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's opinion, and he specifically told his disciples to write books. He actually preferred to publish books rather than establish temples. Temple construction is meant for the general populace and neophyte devotees, but the business of advanced and empowered devotees is to write books, publish them, and distribute them widely. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, distributing literature is like playing on a great mridanga. Consequently, we always request members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to publish as many books as possible and distribute them widely throughout the world. By thus following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami, one can become a Rupanuga devotee. Close quote. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna, your eternal grateful servant, Giriraj Swami. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to read a couple of more, and then we can have some from the devotees. Hare Krishna. All right. All right. That's not what I'm looking for. This is it. All right. Arnath Swami. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my unworthy life in the service. Radhanath Swami? I think I announced it. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my unworthy life in the service of your servants. Our life's essence is in the opportunity to express gratitude to you with sincere surrender and devotion. I pray for the humility to recognize that pleasing you in the service of the Lord is our highest purpose, above all the inconceivable transformations in the world around us. In the sea of material existence, we are sometimes charmed by tranquil sunsets. Sometimes we are tormented by turbulent storms. They are both distractions unless we seek shelter in Krishna's names with gratitude and devotion. Srila Prabhupada, your life and teachings are our compass leading to the shore of the Godhead. I believe that your voyage on the Jaladuta is like a metaphor for life. As our revered and beloved Acharya, you taught us how to surrender to Krishna with love and remain devoted to the will of the spiritual master through the apparently insurmountable changes in the sea of life. In these times, we are surrounded by almost continuous waves of despair, including wars, quarrelsome divisions, diseases, and the loss of loved ones. More than ever, we need each other to share strength and wisdom to seek shelter in Hari Kirtan, Hari Katha, Vaishnav Seva, and Jiva Daya. That's mercy to the Jivas. It is possible if we earnestly seek shelter in your divine grace as our highest aspiration. Striving to be a servant of your servants, Radhanath Swami. All right, I have one or two more here. Okay. So next read Vijayananda Das Goswami's offering. Okay. So he begins with pranams. Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. My dear Srila Prabhupada, I bow to you, Jai Prabhupada, all glories to your matchless devotional service to Sri Sri Gauranatai. As I progress on my spiritual path, which you mercifully revealed and bestowed on me, I am increasingly in awe of your superhuman spiritual qualities. The clarity, simplicity, profundity, and power of your teaching and preaching are unmatched. Your words reveal your pure devotion to Lord Krishna. Your words and conduct reveal that you are truly a great Mahabhagavat and exalted pure devotee of Krishna. Once, in the privacy of your darshan room in Los Angeles, you revealed to me that never was there a time when you did not know Lord Krishna. Your words confirmed what I had always seen in you. Even at the beginning of my spiritual life, Lord Krishna showed me that you are a pure soul who is seeing God face to face. My consolation is that my debt to you is eternal, and thus I will be serving you always. Thank you, your servant, Vijayananda Das Goswami. And finally, for these introductory ones, Shivaram Swami offering. Okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace, and all glories to your divine appearance day. Some 30 years ago, I wrote a Vyasa Puja offering about a granny in Hungary who, by the influence of your movement, became a devotee. That story highlighted the transformation you have brought about in the lives of countless people who may live in even the most far-flung parts of this world. Many devotees contacted me about that old lady, and even today I am occasionally asked about her and how she is. She has moved on, but her history is not a one-off, it is one of many. Since that time, I have seen your movement continue to transform the young and the old. While every person's story is unique, they all have one thing in common. You are their savior. This year, I would like to narrate another example of how Krishna consciousness is saving people day by day, and how every story of salvation increases your already endless glories. I will tell the history of Janani Devi Dasi. However, I emphasize that her final words are the essence of my narration, the essence of her life, the essence of the marvel of your influence. Sometime back in 1991, our book distributors entered a modest ice cream shop in a very remote part of Hungary. The shop owner, Irene, was in her 30s, a mother of 3 girls, and her husband was a simple Christian who worked in the hospitality sector. Irene purchased whatever Bhagavatams we had in print, and thereafter, year after year, she purchased every new book that came out, reading them very carefully. In this way, Irene became a devotee. She chanted 16 rounds a day, was a vegetarian, made her little girls vegetarians, and raised them as devotees by telling them stories from a Krishna book. After some years, the book distributors no longer visited. But Irene continued on with her Krishna conscious life, even though she never saw devotees or visited a temple. Meanwhile, all was not well at home. Irene's husband was against Krishna consciousness and the changes it was bringing into his house. He tried to burn Irene's Gita and forbade her practices. But Irene would not stop her Krishna consciousness, nor would she stop teaching it to her children. Needless to say, the differences between the parents became a source of ongoing tension in the household. Yet Irene remained her serene, sweet, soft-spoken self. A lone devotee in her home, in her greater family, and in her village, she never faltered, but continued year after year, decade after decade, following what she read in your books. Her girls grew up, finished their education, and married, having children of their own. The middle daughter was named Beatrice, and she was an economist who worked at a bank as a financial advisor. As Krishna would have it, being a devotee, she used to visit the temple, And in conversing with some ladies, she became inspired to work for the Budapest temple, organizing festival programs. We all knew that B was a devotee, but it took some time before we came to know that almost all of her family were devotees, including her mother. When I heard the story of her elderly Krishna-conscious mother, I asked if Irene could come to the temple. How was someone chanting 16 rounds and following the principles for 30 years not initiated? I first met Irene in 2017, and we talked at length. She was such a sweet person, such a sweet devotee. We agreed that, in time, she would formalize her relationship with Krishna through initiation. In the spring of 2019, Irene was taken to the hospital for what was meant to be a minor colon operation, only to be told that she had stage 4 cancer spread throughout her body. The doctors were amazed that she did not complain of any pain, and they gave her only a few months to live. Irene took the news gracefully, peacefully, indeed so much so that the doctors sent her to a psychologist. But there was nothing wrong with Irene. She understood the temporary nature of the body, and she didn't complain about her fate. She had full faith that everything was as it was supposed to be. Events moved quickly and predictably. With great difficulty, Irene came to see me in August, and we again spoke of initiation, which then took place the next month during the Radhashtami festival. Irene received the name Janani Devi Dasi. She was a real mother. Janani's illness swiftly took its toll, and she was no longer able to travel the distance from home to the temple or to Krishna Valley. Then came COVID, a period of 2 years I spent almost exclusively in Krishna Valley. It wasn't a time to travel. And from that time, March 2021, Janani's condition deteriorated rapidly. In May, I began to call Janani regularly to help prepare her for the final lesson, her departure from this world. I would speak to her or read to her while her girls took turns nursing her. B was with her 24/7, and in that time she witnessed Janani's non-stop intense Krishna consciousness, during which she was either listening to your divine grace or hearing Chaitanya Charitamrita. Almost up until her passing, Janani always chanted 16 rounds and read your books. Then the evening before her passing, I called and read Narottam Das Thakur's prayer. My dear Lord, please hear me. The day that I give up my body absorbed in thoughts of you, please give me shelter at your lotus feet. Prarthana, Song 57. I encourage her to pray to Krishna so that she may always think of him, that he kindly take her back to Godhead to be either a gopa or a gopi. All night your bhajan played as Janani slept, and in the morning B asked her if she remembered the prayer we had spoken about. She nodded in affirmation. B and her sister Rita bathed and dressed Janani, and at 9:46 a.m., while the 2 girls were chanting beside her, Janani Devi Dasi left this world. It was the 9th of June, 2021. As I said at the beginning, this story is an introduction to its conclusion, which is a summary of Janani's words, as related by B at the ashes immersion ceremony in Krishna Valley. Janani had said, "From the first day that I began to read Srila Prabhupada's books, I accepted everything that he said as truth and followed everything that he instructed. Throughout my life, I never doubted Srila Prabhupada for a moment, for I knew that in him and in his teachings I had found what I was searching for all my life. I do not lament my imminent death, for I know everything is as it should be, and Krishna will always be with me. Hare Krishna." Srila Prabhupada, I was and continue to be amazed at how this meek housewife had such unflinching faith in your teachings, and how just by reading your books she attained such an elevated state of devotion without any devotee association. I do not know how many other people in remote parts of the world, unknown to nearby temples or devotees, have been transformed in the same way. It is the wonder of your books and of your teachings. However, I do know that you continue to live and guide sincere souls who, like Janani, are looking for the truth and want to live by it. Thank you for being so wonderful. Oh yes, one final thing. At the conclusion of the ashes ceremony, after having been with his wife all through her illness, after hearing her words of devotion, and after hearing the remembrances at the ceremony, Janani's husband approached me with tears in his eyes and extended his hand. As we shook hands, he said in a choked voice, "Thank you. Thank you for all that you did for Janani." Srila Prabhupada, I didn't do anything. We just distributed your books. And another thing, ironically, Rita, the other daughter, also married a husband who was against Krishna consciousness and her devotional practices. While Janani could still speak, the last instruction that she gave Rita was that she should make her whole family Krishna conscious. And she did. Her husband has been chanting 16 rounds for the past year. And we didn't do anything other than distribute your books. Your servant, Shivaram Swami. That's quite a tale. Hare Krishna. So, let's see, I think that concludes my selections here, just to confirm. So now, I would like to invite devotees, beginning with our senior devotee, to, if they have an offering they like to read or just relate, they can come forward. And otherwise, we'll move to the junior devotees. Do you have something, Mataji? Oh, you have Kanchan Balas? She'll be coming back. All right, so let's wait for that. Cause she can. So who would like to read or relate something? Jamunapati first. Okay, is he coming? Yeah, please. Yeah. Yeah, we should ask, and if Pavamana is there, and Dharma Setu and any others.
Hare Krishna. My name is Pavamana. I was initiated in 1972 in Bombay. There were about 10 of us got initiated about that time. Unfortunately, this year I didn't write anything, so I'm just being spontaneous. Srila Prabhupada was a disruptor. This term is usually used for some sort of technological advancement, a cell phone or something like that, where, you know, one day life is like this, and the next day, completely disrupted, things are completely different, your life is different. So I can say in my life, it was like that. I grew up, I was going to be an engineer. My dad was an engineer, his father was, so on and so on. I was to be the family engineer. So how in the world did I ever get a chance to be a Hare Krishna? I mean, I saw the devotees at San Diego State chanting with these funny-looking drums and finger cymbals with their dhotis flying in the breeze and face paint and ponytail and shaved head. I could not figure it out. And they were chanting this mantra from the musical Hair. So what is this? I want nothing to do with it. But in course of time, I'd meet the devotees once here and there. And one day a devotee came to my door and sold me a Bhagavad Gita and said, try chanting Hare Krishna 5 minutes a day. You'll see at the end of a week, your consciousness will be changed. And come to our Sunday feast. So I'm thinking Sunday feast means, you know, wooden table, with the Nordic horns on the wall, goblets of wine and, chewing on unmentionables. I wasn't a vegetarian. I didn't think you could live without eating meat. So how did I become a vegetarian? How did I join this movement? I think I know. It's Srila Prabhupada's will. Srila Prabhupada said, I have given you your fortune. In this age, everyone is unfortunate. We're all born Shudras or less. And Srila Prabhupada came here and disrupted the entire world, single-handedly, without backing, without money, without a cell phone, without a telephone. There were telephones. They gave him one once. He didn't like it. Get rid of it. Because the devotees would call him in the middle of the night. Swamiji, how are you doing? So Srila Prabhupada came unannounced. He only had a sponsor. And he blazed the trail through the jungles of Western civilization. He didn't hesitate. He was feeling a little discouraged, I think, because sometime in the early days, for a year, there was not very much response. So he was thinking, well, maybe I shall go back, but then he never did. Srila Prabhupada was relentless. If he had something he wanted, usually Krishna fulfilled his desire. That's the way he was his whole life. He was always a leader among his friends. So Srila Prabhupada was not a wallflower. As we think, a saintly person, he should never get angry. Well, Srila Prabhupada would get angry sometimes. And if you were in the bullseye, it was only because you could handle it. Sometimes his intimate disciples would be, chastised because they were advanced enough to understand that it was for their own good. This is not easy. I can attest. My ego is too big. But Srila Prabhupada was always keen to see that every living entity become Krishna conscious or somehow benefited. Okay? But he wasn't sentimental either. And people think, well, service to man is service to God. No. If someone spoke some Mayavadi philosophy, he was very keen to defeat it. He would not let it go. He would not, if someone was speaking against Krishna, making offense to Krishna, Srila Prabhupada would be angry like a red-hot ball of fire. That was Srila Prabhupada. He would not let it go. He was as hard as a thunderbolt and softer than a rose. It depended on the circumstances. So many misconceptions people have about us as a saintly person, what he's like, what he thinks and everything. We think, oh, it's, some Buddha, smiling Buddha, or something like that. Srila Prabhupada also had a most charming smile. But depending on the circumstances, he would not let it go. And his main target, I'm telling you, is the scientists. The scientists are generally regarded by the public as being on a higher platform, okay, with their lab coats and things like this. They seem to have supplanted, they've replaced the need for God, because now we can do things that we couldn't do before, right? We can throw a Sputnik in the outer space. But what about the Sputnik planets are out there? Well, that happened by chance. Srila Prabhupada was so keen, he was so intelligent, he could point out all of the defects in your argument. He would see it very clearly. Srila Prabhupada was never illusioned. He didn't rely on his senses for knowledge. He wasn't an illusion, and he wasn't a cheater. And he was fully surrendered to Krishna. So someone could say, well, Srila Prabhupada made this mistake. He said, well, we make sannyasis and later on they fell down, or, he married devotees and they later broke up, and, we say, well, Prabhupada made mistakes. Srila Prabhupada didn't make mistakes. Srila Prabhupada, being fully surrendered to Krishna, could not make mistakes. You want to point out mistakes? Well, Krishna made some mistakes. If Krishna is perfect, then Prabhupada's perfect. And we should have faith in what Prabhupada said. If he has an opinion about something, then we should accept that. Not try to argue, because I don't believe, what Prabhupada said, that I should make some explanation. I'd explain it away. Or if Srila Prabhupada makes some controversial statement, that we should bury it, and we should suppress it. We don't have to necessarily bring it out in the public lecture, but if we remove these things from Srila Prabhupada's books and teachings, and somebody joins, I didn't know Prabhupada said that. I wouldn't have joined Prabhupada if I knew Prabhupada said that. Better to weed out. Better that we have quality and not necessarily quantity. We want everyone to become a devotee, but that doesn't mean that everyone necessarily is going to accept everything or live in the temple. Okay? In the beginning, Srila Prabhupada is like, when you got nothing, anything is better than nothing. Okay? And a lot of us, I was one of those dancing white elephants. Practically, I was in India, struggling for my life, frankly, was dying. And Srila Prabhupada had these different pandal programs, which were arranged by Sarma Sundar and the other devotees, going from town to town, putting on a huge production. I don't know how they did it. And then the cream of the crop was the 1973 in January, this big Bombay pandal. Okay, so I was just a warm body, frankly. Dancing white elephants. Okay, here Srila Prabhupada is proving to the Indian people that here are Westerners. They're more devout than you. You have Krishna consciousness. This is new to them. And look and see how devoted and how enthusiastic they are. Okay, so this was a big draw for the crowds, bringing crowds to see Western devotees dancing and chanting. Okay, so usually they're more interested in the technology and the opulence of the West. And see devotees fully surrendered, completely celibate, were not working, right? So it was very impressive, very impressive. So Srila Prabhupada not only had a vision to preach in the West, but he also brought it back to his own country, in India. And when he would give lectures at these pandal programs, I am telling you, it was fire and brimstone. Even though he would lecture sometimes in other languages, he would quote the same verses. That you are born in India. It's your duty. Lord Chaitanya said anyone born in India must spread this Krishna consciousness. And he would not relent. And people lapped it up like it was nectar. And after Prabhupada was done, they'd gather around to try to touch his feet. And there's one night, the last night in Bombay, in that 1973, very famous moment. Devotees were put on a little skit, that getting the dust of the devotees' feet. So all of the smarter Brahmins and everybody would say, no, that's we can't take the dust of my feet, and I'll go to hell. But when they went to the gopis, they said, sure, to cure Krishna's headache, sure, take as much as you want. And then there was a big kirtan led by Dinanath. If you know Dinanath is a black body devotee. If you were in a kirtan with Dinanath, during the kirtan you did not touch the floor. Even if you were sick as a dog like I was. Okay. So they had this huge kirtan, and Srila Prabhupada was sitting in front. I'm sitting here and Prabhupada's sitting over there. And all of a sudden when the kirtan started, he leaped up on the stage. And as if someone had put a bomb. Now you have to understand, the Indian pandals are as big as a city block square. Humongous, like a circus tent. The whole thing blew up. People just leaped out of their seats and started chanting and dancing. It was unbelievable. And I met a devotee, a friend of mine, that I was with at the time, and I met him at Rath Yatra. I hadn't seen him for like 40 years. And he asked me, do you remember that time when Srila Prabhupada gave that lecture? And he reminded me of it. So I'm like, I'm just blowing smoke. So Srila Prabhupada was a disruptor. Where did all this vegetarianism come from? If you were a vegetarian back in the 60s, you were a kook. You don't eat meat? Okay, now no intoxication? And all the big bands are talking about, LSD and all this kind of stuff. No intoxication. No illicit sex? Are you kidding me? Prabhupada said, if I come and give this message, people are going to tell me to go home. So Srila Prabhupada never watered anything down, but he adjusted things. We cannot imitate that, okay? We have our rules and regulations, no intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, meat eating. Okay, this is all set in stone. Srila Prabhupada says is set in stone, okay? Adjusting the message is one thing, but watering things down is another. So I offer my most humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada in closing. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Chidamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauranga Pacharani Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Veshadhisacharani. I think all of us more or less can say where we would be if Srila Prabhupada had not risked his life. Hare Krishna.
Yamunapati, are you there? He'll be out in a minute. Can you hear me? Uh-oh, I gotta replace the batteries. Thank you, Prof. Thank you. I learned a lot.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Srila Prabhupada, on this most auspicious and special day of your divine appearance, I feel most fortunate that by your kind mercy I can be a part of celebrating and worshiping you, along with all of your dear devotees who are part of our new Govardhan community. Dear Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much for your coming to give us Krishna consciousness and for your taking on the role of our Divine Master. There is no question that my life would have been wasted without your giving me the gift of divine knowledge. My wife, Jayashree, who always loves to hear about you, often watches the memory videos about you, which have been so nicely put together by Siddhanta Prabhu, on which so many of your devotees share your wonderful qualities and pastimes. Because she does this, I get to also join in with her to watch when I can. Inside one of these wonderful memory tapes, a devotee recalled when you, Srila Prabhupada, asked the devotees as to why the devotees worship the spiritual master. I recall that he and some of the other devotees there with you tried to come up with an answer, but could not come up with the exact answer that you were looking for. You then clarified for the devotees by telling them that the reason we worship the spiritual master is because he bestows upon us divya gyan, divine knowledge. Srila Prabhupada, you are the one who has given us the divine knowledge of who we are, who Krishna is as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how we can reawaken our eternal loving relationship with Him. Your whole life was dedicated to bless the entire world by doing exactly this. From all you spoke, all you did in your actions, and in all the many wonderful transcendental books you wrote. All of this you did just to give all of us the divine knowledge, divya jnana, of Krishna consciousness. In my own life, especially in having to take on a material occupation wherein I have to work with and manage others in a very demanding environment, it has been through this gift of divya gyan coming from you that has helped me to navigate through life, keeping life's real goal in mind. Your loving example, your wonderful recorded talks, classes, and songs, and all the beautiful books you have written for us, along with the very special association of so many of your wonderful followers, all of this has certainly made my life a worth living. Dear Srila Prabhupada, there is no doubt that the debt I have to you can never be repaid. But as your disciple and spiritual son, I aspire to try in some way to repay this debt, both in this life and life after life, in service to your lotus feet. One legacy you have left for us is your wonderful ISKCON Sankirtan preaching movement, which you had personally organized as our founder Acharya, and under which you wanted all of us to be part of and to serve in. Here in New Govardhan, their divine lordships, Shri Shri Radhagiridhari, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, and Lord Jagannath, Lord Baladev, and Shri Subhadra Devi, all reside here due to your mercy. The amazing thing is that our temple not only provides opportunity for the devotees and myself to try to serve you and their lordships, but the very existence of our new Govardhan and our loving community here is all a part of this Sankirtan mission set up by you. Any service done here, whether it be service to care for and clean the temple, service for our wonderful deities and for the devotees, for our community, for our guests, service in singing and hearing kirtan and classes, outreach and preaching, and your transcendental book distribution, our temple and our community. It's all a manifestation of your loving mission to help both the devotees and non-devotees to be able to receive and get the special blessing of Krishna consciousness. All this has come about due to your giving us divine divya gyan, pure and unadulterated divine knowledge, so wonderfully delivered with the most loving care by your divine grace. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada. I'm eternally indebted to you and your devotees, praying to always be engaged in your service. Your lowly servant, aspiring servant, Yamunapati Das. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. I do have, thank you. I do have a special announcement at some point. I will be setting up tables here in the back of the temple room while Dravida Prabhu leads the readings. And at some point we'll need a little help making kachoris. So you'll still be able to hear, but then you can also help make kachoris for Srila Prabhupada. So.
Yeah, those two devotees who came in, the man and woman.
Yeah.
I asked them if they wanted to sit down. No, we're making kachoris, so they're going to...
Okay, I'll catch up with them. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So Dharma Setu is going to offer something, but he's arranging something on the phone now for a while. So I'm calling Vijay. Would you like to read something or offer something? Thank you.
Om Gyanatamanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurumulatam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Mukram Gurtavatalam Bangandang Hayate Grim Yatkripa Sri Gurum Dhanadhanam. There's a statement by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die while still living in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. So Prabhupada is very much alive still. He said that there was one instance where one reporter asked, well, when you leave, who's going to continue the movement when you die? Prabhupada said, I'll never die. And all the devotees, Haribo, was in the airport. So Prabhupada lives in his books. And yeah. And amazing thing is still happening. There was one instance where one person, he was having dreams, and Prabhupada was telling him, you have to get my Bhagavad Gita. And he would find some Bhagavad Gitas, because there's hundreds translated into English. But he couldn't find it. And then he was at some festival, and he saw a devotee at a book table, and he saw the Bhagavad Gita, and he turned around, he saw the picture of Prabhupada. He said, this is the Bhagavad Gita I want. He keeps coming to me in a dream. Get my Bhagavad Gita. So we find, so Prabhupada's still distributing books. There's a very nice pastime of Prabhupada. Of course, there's so many nice pastimes, but one of my favorites is when Prabhupada was in India in, I think, 1970. Prabhupada went with his dancing white elephants, about 30 devotees. And they were traveling around the country. And they ended up in Madras, and there was one minister in the city there that was very fond of the devotees, especially one devotee, Saraswati. She was about 4 years old, and she was so enthusiastic. She would dance in the kirtans, and blonde hair, cute little girl. He was just government minister, yeah. So he was so fond of the devotees that he gave them a whole flat of it. He had a big house. He gave them a whole flat, 30 devotees, many rooms. So Prabhupada was very appreciative of that. So he went up to visit the devotees, see how they're all doing, and he saw little Saraswati, and he said to her, I have a present for you. So he left and came back, and he had a little murti of Krishna, silver murti of Krishna, and gave it to her. And she was so happy. And Prabhupada said to the minister, it's very nice that you've given this present to Saraswati, but this solid silver murti is very expensive. Prabhu, I think you're going to have to move a little bit. Yeah. So it's nice that you've given her this present, but it's very expensive, and she's a child. She'll most likely lose it. Do you have something a little less expensive? And he said, yes, I have. So he took the murti, and she had set it down on the table and went to play. So he picked up the murti, and he left, and he came back. In India they have these clay dolls of Krishna, colorful, very beautiful. So he had one, so he brought that back, but he had not put it on the table where she had put he gave it to Prabhupada. So she was playing around in the room, and She came back and she saw that the murti wasn't there where she had put it. So she asked the devotees, where is Krishna? Where's Krishna? And Prabhupada immediately caught her mood. He said, maybe he's in the room. Go look in the room over there. So she darted into the room, looking all over in the room. Came back, no, Prabhupada's not there. Check the other room. Maybe somebody put him in there. Go. So she ran in there, darted in there, looking around there. Prabhupada said, maybe the kitchen. Check the kitchen. So she's running around, looking for Krishna. And Prabhupada was so touched. So he started singing this song. Hey Radhe Vraja Devi Ke Chalalite, Hey Nanda Suno Kuta. That the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they're running around Vrindavan. Where is Krishna? Where is Srimati Radharani? Are they at the bank on the Jamuna? Are they at Govardhana? Where are they? Where is Krishna? Where is Radharani? Looking for Krishna. So finally, little Saraswati was practically in tears. Where is Krishna? And then her father said, Saraswati, who has Krishna? And then it dawned on her, Prabhupada has Krishna. So she went to Prabhupada and paid obeisance. Prabhupada, you have Krishna? Yes, I have Krishna. And then he brought out the colorful doll, Murti Krishna. Although it was different, she was happy. She had Krishna. So Prabhupada's giving Krishna to people all over the world. Now over 500 million, about 520 million books have been distributed, and people are appreciating. Not everyone, but many. They're appreciating Krishna. So I didn't write anything, but a very dear friend of mine wrote something. His name is, he goes by Keshava Swami. He lives in India. He lives in England, but he travels around. Many of you have probably heard of him. He's a very wonderful devotee. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please set my humble obeisance on glories to divine grace. The theme of this is transcendental occupation. In my early years of monastic life, people would often suggest I leave the ashram and get a proper job. Sometimes it came from the skeptical and cynical, and other times from well-meaning and kind friends. I guess that's what normal people do in this world. For me, however, that path never resonated. To work, earn, save, spend, maintain, and then ultimately lose everything anyway. Of course, there are exemplary spiritualists who use it all for a higher purpose and make an incredible contribution to the world. I had, and continue to have, great respect for them, but personally was looking for something different. Baffled and confused, I often wondered about the future. What possible alternative could there be? After all, you had to do something in life. Thankfully, your divine grace miraculously entered my insignificant existence and flipped it all upside down. You lent us a different vision, an alternative approach, an engagement to keep us busy and absorbed, morning to night. You gifted us a life of devotional service, the opportunity to engage in selfless sacrifices for the betterment of the world. You showed us how to utilize our abilities and propensities for a higher purpose than just selfish gain. You taught the world that awakening spiritual love can and should be a full-time affair. In Srimad Bhagavatam, you write, once we had the opportunity to meet Vishnu Pad, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and on first sight he requested this humble self to preach his message in the Western countries. There was no preparation for this, but somehow or other he desired it, and by his grace we are now engaged in executing his order, which has given us a transcendental occupation and has saved and liberated us from the occupation of material activities. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:22-5. Purport. Srila Prabhupada, you are my boss. The business of Chaitanya Dev has become my occupation, and the salary is the gradual awakening of divine love. My colleagues are the saintly. Overtime is a pleasure. Holidays are unnecessary, and the retirement plan is out of this world. May I be more determined and driven than the people out there chasing $1 million. May I be ready to make more sacrifices than the city sharks who go to hell and back to conquer the corporate ladder. May I joyfully embrace more risks than those willing to jeopardize everything to realize their greedy ambitions. The words of Shriti Dharma Prabhu ring in my heart. He was the president at Bhakti Vedanta Manor for many years. He left his body a few years ago. He says, when the alarm clock goes off, get up, dress up, and show up. This is the most important work in the world. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called his triple-staffed sannyasis the living mridangas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He reminded them that their dandas should perpetually give forth music at the lotus feet of Sri Guru. He revealed the inner aspiration to become a prema bhikshu, a beggar of love. Unqualified and unworthy as I am, by your divine grace and the unlimited mercy of your followers, I've been employed in the transcendental occupation. May I honor the opportunity with my body, mind, and words, holding back nothing and rising to any challenge. Thank you for allowing us to be alive and active in the greatest movement on earth. Kesava Swami Maharaj ki jai. Tridandi sannyasis. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called his triple-staff sannyasis the living mridangas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He reminded them that their dandas should perpetually give forth music at the lotus feet of Sri Guru. He revealed the inner aspiration to become prema bhikshu, a beggar of love, unqualified. Oh, so that's it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances on this most sacred day of your appearance in this world. Your presence is felt and your mercy is available every day of the year. But today you are especially available to all your devotees and followers. Your Vyasa Puja day is a joyous and profound occasion for us to glorify your transcendental qualities and reflect upon what blessings you have bestowed upon us and the rest of the world, past, present, and future. Everyone in this world acts with a personal motive or agenda, but we saw in you, as a pure devotee of Krishna, no such quality. Your coming to the West and spreading Krishna consciousness was completely out of love and obedience to the order of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta and Lord Chaitanya. There was absolutely no desire for personal gain. This was the exact opposite of what was demonstrated by so many yogis and gurus who came from India to the West simply to exploit or at best waste people's time. This is why you attracted and are attracting so many souls to take up pure devotional service to Krishna. Not only was your message pure, but you, the messenger, was also pure, the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. How grateful should we be for what you have given us? We see people display compassion for the suffering of others in this world, to deliver others from poverty, disease, starvation, and political oppression, to mention just a few of the innumerable miseries of this place, is laudable. Beyond the ordinary, if one is able to give someone entrance into the heavenly abodes or liberation into the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, how much are they appreciated? However, what you have given, a life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, entrance into our eternal home, Goloka Vrindavan, pure devotional service to Krishna and all his devotees, there is absolutely no comparison. Every other boon, because it is temporary and has nothing to do with the soul's true identity, can never satisfy one. These so-called benedictions keep us perpetually under the crushing wheel of samsara. Again, how grateful should we be, and how can we repay you? The answer becomes more and more revealed in each of our hearts the more Krishna conscious we become. Just as an ordinary person cannot fully understand the value of a priceless gemstone in the palm of their hand, but an experienced jeweler can, so we cannot understand the value. So comprehending the true worth of the gifts you have given us is based on our individual purity of heart. Factually, we cannot understand the value of what you have given. Could it be said that we are like the swine, uninterested in the costly pearls laying in front of them, as mentioned in the Bible? We cannot repay you, your blessings being of such immense value. The scriptures state this emphatically. But we can try. We can try by always, every day, being loyal and chaste to your instructions, your teachings, and your ISKCON movement. You also said that we can repay you by giving Krishna consciousness to others. That is what you asked. I know that I am not long for this world. So many decades have passed since I first opened the pages of your unabridged Macmillan Bhagavad Gita as it is. Today I'm asking for the blessing when the time comes for me to be born again here on this planet and to be part of the ISKCON movement you started so humbly in the storefront on 26 2nd Avenue. Let me continue to be part of this amazing and wonderful spiritual legacy. Let me try to repay my debt to you in this way. This is the request placed at your lotus feet today, an aspiring servant of your servants, Dharma Setu Das. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So we have a few others. I think Mahabharat will be offering something eventually. But I was wondering if I could have the permission to also read my offering. I read the meaning, but I also wrote an offering for the tributes book. Okay, is there consensus? No objection? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Dabir Prabhu. Dhanyavad Pranam. Prabhu, there are few devotees in the Zoom, like Vijay Krishna Prabhu, Fanashri Mataji. They are also in the Zoom, waiting
Okay.
in queue. I just wanted to let you know.
All right. We'll definitely have time. This will just take a few minutes here. And it's only 9:19. Now, who knows exactly when we end? Could someone? 11 what? 11:50? So we're not doing a bathing this year. Can you ask Dharma? Because usually he's in charge of that. 11:50, that's a long way off. Okay.
Okay, 11:15 for your confirmation.
I'm glad you cleared that up. All right. Okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most heartfelt, prostrated obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to you on this Vyasa Puja day, the 127th anniversary of your all-auspicious appearance in this world. Well, Srila Prabhupada, a few weeks ago I celebrated the 50th anniversary of my moving into your glorious Henry Street, Brooklyn temple. It was your teachings of Lord Chaitanya that finally convinced me that there was nothing worth striving for in the world of Maya, and that what I really should do was follow the path of Krishna consciousness in a place where I had the best chance of success. It wasn't long before I was working as a proofreader at the forerunner of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, ISKCON Press, which you had established early on to produce your invaluable books. My first service as an editor began in 1975 during the 17 books in 2 months marathon in the spring and summer of that year, when I filled in for Jayadwaita Swami, then Das Brahmachari, at your Back to Godhead magazine so he could devote all his energy to editing the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the 5th canto for the marathon. Then, as the deadline loomed, I also got to participate in the marathon. And this brings me to the essence of my humble homage, my eternal gratitude to you for engaging me in the service of your words. Of course, the most important way to serve your words is to follow your instructions strictly. And such following ensures that the disciple always enjoys the association of the spiritual master, as you write at Srimad Bhagavatam 4:28-47 purport, quote, "The disciple and the spiritual master are never separated, because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master." This is called the association of vani, or words. Physical presence is called vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master, and when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master. Well, I certainly feel your presence when I follow your instructions and attend the full morning program every day here at New Govardhan Temple at San Diego, and also when I listen to your lectures whenever possible and give classes on the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. But I also feel your presence when I'm performing my practical service for you, editing your words for force and clarity, as you instructed your first editor, Hayagriva Prabhu, to do in his work on the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the Bhagavatam. So just as other devotees often recount a life-changing interaction with you in their Vyasa Puja homage, I'd like to recount a few memorable high points in my lifetime work of helping to present your words to the world with maximum, quote, force and clarity. Those are Prabhupada's words. My first example involves the 1975 book production marathon. Part of my assignment was working on several chapters of the 5th canto, including the 18th chapter entitled, "The Residents of Jambudweep Offer Prayers." One of those residents is Prahlad Maharaj, who leads other residents of Harivarsha in offering the following prayer to Lord Nrsingadev. I'll spare you the Sanskrit. "I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possess nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for a fruit of activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world." At the end of your purport to this verse, you write, quote, "Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Nrsingadev, as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse." Wow! I was already planning to memorize this verse, which is actually prose, but which still has wonderful rhythm and euphony. But now I had an added impetus, your direct instruction. I felt blessed to be the first to memorize and recite this potent prayer to Lord Nrsimha. My next editing highlight concerns my work on your Chaitanya Charitamrita. Not during the marathon, but 20 years later, when I was asked to go through and correct any errors that had been made in the first printing. After all, getting 17 books produced in 2 months required practically a superhuman effort on the part of the typists, artists, and other members of the production team, especially the editors. And don't forget, there were Sanskrit editors, Bengali editors, and English editors. So it was understood that the books should be gone through thoroughly and any mistakes corrected. Here are a few highlights from what I found. At Madhya 9.362, you dictated this translation. Now you really have to pay attention here to see if there's a mistake, okay? In this age of Kali, there is no other genuine principle of religion. This is what you dictated. This is your original. In this age of Kali, there is no other genuine principle of religion except Vaishnava devotees and the Vaishnava scriptures, devotional books. This is the sum and substance of everything. Pretty straightforward. But in 1975, this was rendered as follows by a rushed English editor. In this age of Kali, there are no genuine religious principles, period. There are only the Vaishnava devotees and the Vaishnava devotional scriptures. You get the problem? This is the sum and substance of everything. So that's saying that all these Vaishnava scriptures, they're not genuine. I felt very happy in 1995 when I could present to you basically your original translation. Quote, in this age of Kali, there are no genuine religious principles other than those established by Vaishnava devotees and the Vaishnava scriptures. This is the sum and substance of everything. So what do you think? Was that a good correction? Should I make that correction? What do you think? Anyone want to object? Later in the Madhya Lila, at 19.157, in the 1975 printing, we find this sentence near the end of the purport. Now this is the teachings to Rupa Goswami, very important. This is the purport. If one thinks that there are many pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna consciousness society, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master. And if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. Sounds pretty reasonable, but this is what Prabhupada dictated. But what you dictated was, if one thinks in the society there are many so-called devotees, or there are so many non-devotees, still one should stick to the society. And if one thinks the society members are not pure devotees, he can directly keep company or in touch with the spiritual master. If there is any doubt, he should consult the spiritual master. I figured you probably would want to include that part about sticking to the society. So I rendered the passage as follows. Even if one thinks that there are many pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna consciousness society, still one should stick to the society. If one thinks the society's members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master, and if there's any doubt, one could consult the spiritual master. My final example is my favorite catch of all time, which occurred when I was reviewing the Madhya Lila, chapter 13. This chapter recounts Lord Chaitanya's ecstatic dancing and chanting at the Ratha Yatra festival. And at verse 137, we find this translation. Speaking in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, for most people, the mind and heart are one. But because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. My mind is already Vrindavan, and since you like Vrindavan, will you please place your lotus feet there? I would deem that your full mercy. Unfortunately, because the purport you dictated for this verse was handwritten on the reverse side of the manuscript page, the typist missed it and instead appended the purport for 138, text 138, which then had no purport. Here is the missing purport to verse 137. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing, by which the mind accepts materially favorable things and rejects the unfavorable. This is the consciousness of people in general. But when one's mind does not accept and reject, but simply becomes fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna, then one's mind becomes as good as Vrindavan. Wherever Krishna is, there also are Srimati Radharani, the gopis, the cowherd boys, and all the other inhabitants of Vrindavan. Thus, as soon as one fixes Krishna in his mind becomes identical with Vrindavan. In other words, when one's mind is completely free from all material desires and is engaged only in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one always lives in Vrindavan and nowhere else. I felt very blissful when I rescued this gem-like purport of yours from oblivion, Srila Prabhupada. So just to make it clear, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita was published in 1975, famously, and distributed. 20,000 sets of those were printed and eventually distributed. And after 20 years, we had to reprint. So we decided to go through and correct any mistakes. So for all those years, no one could read this. So I thought I felt very blissful when I rescued this gem-like purport of yours from oblivion. I pray that for the few remaining years I have in this body, I can continue to associate with you by serving your words, Srila Prabhupada, both by following your instructions and helping others to do so. Your immensely grateful servant, Dravida Das. Hare Krishna. Now, let me go see if Mahabharat wants to offer. And meanwhile, anyone can be planning here to sit here and offer something, even if you haven't written anything. Be nice. We have at least an hour and a half. And then we have on Zoom.
Hare Krishna, Tatas Prabhu.
She should be here any minute.
Oh, she's going to come back. Okay, great.
Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. I've been thinking a lot. You know, every time Vyasa Puja come, I always think about what I'm going to say about Srila Prabhupada because there's so many things we can say. You know, I think just like Krishna's glories are unlimited, Prabhupada's glories are also unlimited. So one of the things that really caught my attention this year was the fact that we always say that Srila Prabhupada is our dearest friend. So I've been thinking about it, you know, what is a friend? Like really, right? And there's many different levels and categories about it. You know, I have some colleagues and people that I've been working for 25, 30 years. That at a given moment, they've been there for me, and I also been there for them. Not for any personal interest, just because of friendship, right? So, yeah, that's a level of friends. And I have my childhood friend. When I was about to join the temple, everybody was freaking out in my family, and and he was the only one who said, you know what, if that's in your heart, if that's what you want, go for it. You know, do it, doesn't matter. He was the only one, and eventually he would visit me at the temple, and he never got initiated, but he chants like about 8 rounds every day. He followed the principles. I send him ISKCON calendar every year. He follows the Ekadasis and all that. So somewhat of the body. Nice, really nice guys. And I have all the devotees here, you know, Balaram, Ram, Amoga, you know, everybody. So it's a more elevated level of friends that, you know, anytime that I need something, they're there for me. I know that, and I'm there for them too. I hope they know that. Also, all the devotees that I look up to, you know, like Dravida Prabhu, Padre Narayana Maharaj, Pavamana, Yamuna Pati, you know, that they're definitely always an inspiration in life. Of course, Dharmasetu Prabhu, you know, we have shared a lot of adventures in life. My own spiritual master who always encouraged me to serve Prabhupada. But the dearest friend, you know, that's definitely the highest level in that chain, you know, and it's nice to know we have Srila Prabhupada there, you know, in this day and age when, you know, society is so divided among ideologies, you know, social problems, you know, conservatives and liberals, political issues, gender preferences. You mentioned it, race and all that stuff. People are so confused on those things. And the leaders of the world, unfortunately, they just exploit those things. They don't really want to serve the people. It's like when we read the Bhagavatam, for example, it's like the Bhagavatam coming alive. Maharaj Parikshit comes and goes and conquers the earth, and he finds a Shudra dressed like a king, dressed as a Kshatriya, and he's, hitting a cow, which represents the earth, and hitting a bull, which represents religion. And I was thinking, nowadays, these leaders of the world, they would be lucky if they're called Shudras. They're more like militias and Yavanas, and they all have no clue. They're like destroyed the environment, in a total catastrophe environmentally, and they don't care. They break the religious principles by the minute, and they have nothing to offer to people. So the fact that we have Srila Prabhupada as our dearest friend, who never lied to us, imagine that. He never, ever. He always gave us the truth, uncompromised, clean and simple. He always stood for that. And he always looked for our best interest. Right? So that's really what we can consider our dearest friend. And in that mood, I think we should all pray to Lord Chaitanya to continue blessing us with the opportunity to serve Srila Prabhupada, because if we do that, we're reciprocating with that person who sacrificed everything just for our own interest, for nothing else. He wanted to bless us. He wanted us to get better. He actually opened the doors of the spiritual world, not only for us to see, but for us to walk and live in that reality, and gave us the essential knowledge to get there. He gave us the process. He gave us the example. And even up to today, he's still looking after us. So I pray that Lord Chaitanya give us that blessing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dravida Prabhu.
Yeah. Who's speaking?
It's
Online?
Paneshwari Lakshmi.
Say again?
Paneshwari Lakshmi.
Okay, Paneshwari. So I was going to call for any Zoom offerings at this point. So you can be first. Tapas, are you with us? Do you have to do something? I don't know how this works. Is Govardhan around? No. Yeah.
I think if you can hear me, it's good.
Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay, Paneshwari.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapadastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pastyatra Deshtayam. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most respectful obeisance at your divine lotus feet. I have seen a new dimension to the flow of bhakti from your lotus feet to the hearts of all who come in contact with this movement. You have blessed us and you have made our good fortune. You have established temples in all over the world, and you have developed these beautiful centers of devotion for us. This is a place where we have developed wonderful friendships and wonderful associations. And most of all, you've established our most beloved Lord and Lady, Sri Sri Radha Giridhari. It is here that that flowers our devotion. You have blessed us and you have made our good fortune. I have seen how this Krishna Bhakti flowers in the hearts of everyone who comes in contact with Sri Sri Radha Giridhari. From the children who are touched, I'm inspired by all of the devotees that I know. I'm inspired by those who are my contemporaries, those who are my seniors, who have guided me, who've protected me, and who have supported me in my devotional service. But now I am inspired by the children. I am inspired by their spontaneous devotion. And it reminds us that this is not it is natural. It's a natural inclination of the heart. And through these children, we find how this devotion really flows. And through the association of Sri Sri Radha Giridhari, so many other devotees are being inspired to bring their talents to the fore. And again, it shows us that everything can be utilized in the service of Sri Sri Radha Giridhari. You have said everybody has a place in devotion and everybody has a service. Each one of us has a gift, a special gift that is given by Krishna in order to serve him. And I have seen this flower in the hearts of all who I come in contact with, whether they are children, whether they are adults, whether they are new devotees or old. And I understand that as this flowering continues, this is how you have blessed us. This is how you have brought us together. And this is how you inspire us. You are forever in our hearts. You are forever in the midst of this movement. You are ever our pilot and you are ever our guide. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart that without you, I would have been lost in this ocean of material suffering. And by the mercy of my spiritual master and my loving spiritual grandfather, Srila Prabhupada, I forever am indebted to you. And I will continue to serve you in any way possible. Thank you. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, all that are there and all that are soon to come. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paneshwari. Hare Krishna. Wonderful. Tapas, is there one more? Are you there, Tapas?
Yes, Prabhu. There is one more. Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Okay.
May I?
Ever said no? Yes, Vijay Krishna, please.
Yes, Srila Prabhu. Thank you very much. You're most kind. Srila Prabhupada, my offering is based on a list of 5 questions, and then the answer to the 5 questions is going to be given by you yourself. It is a quote from your introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is. So the first question is, Srila Prabhupada, who are you? Second question, who is your Guru Maharaj? Third question, why did your Guru Maharaj ask of you for you to come to the Western countries to preach Krishna consciousness? Question number 4, why did you, Srila Prabhupada, fulfill the instructions of your Guru Maharaj? And question number 5, Srila Prabhupada, if I take refuge at your lotus feet, will I become successful in life? So, Srila Prabhupada, I think that you have answered these 5 questions in the most expert and scholarly way by the following quote from your introduction to your Bhagavad Gita as it is. And the quote goes as follows. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam, Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva, Eko Mantras Tasya Namani Yani, Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Gita Mahatmya 7. In this present day, people are very much eager to have one scripture, one God, one religion, and one occupation. Therefore, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. Let there be one scripture only, one common scripture for the whole world, Bhagavad Gita. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva. Let there be one God for the whole world, Shri Krishna. Eko Mantras Tasya Namani. And one hymn, one mantra, one prayer, the chanting of his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karmapi ekam tasya devasya seva. And let there be one work only, the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada, thank you very much for giving me Bhagavad Gita as the one scripture only, Shri Krishna as one only God, the Mahamantra as one only prayer, and the service to the lotus feet of the Lord as the one only service. I think that by this quote you did answer my 5 questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, if I may, happy birthday.
Vijay Krishna. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you as the days go on. Now I'd like to call on Amogalila Prabhu to read the new Govardhan offering this year, which he wrote. I'm going to find it here. Oh, you have it there?
Or if you mentioned you edited some things on it.
But I made it easy to read. You know, I wrote this thing.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Dear Srila Prabhupada, this material world is, as your Gurudev once said, not fit for any gentleman. It is a nasty, impersonal, disease-ridden pit. Nonetheless, like pigs enamored with eating stool, the living entities in this world are blind to its evils, bewildered by the prospect of indulging their senses. The inhabitants of San Diego are certainly no exception. Most are satisfied, laid back, and become uptight if disturbed. Some are thoughtful, but battered by thousands of moronic philosophies battling to the death in their heads. All are certainly lost, looking desperately for the happiness they hear so much about, but never experience. The only good thing that ever happened to San Diego was that you visited here, Srila Prabhupada. Anywhere you mercifully place your lotus feet is verily purified, a tirtha on par with the spiritual world. One such place is Balboa Park, where thousands of your books are being distributed every month. Balboa Park was developed for a cultural exhibition in 1915, meant to showcase, quote, man's progress and achievements. Since then, it has been considered the cultural heart of San Diego. That heart now beats with the Brihat Mridanga, which dismisses all of their progress and achievement as Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam and establishes Bhagavat Dharma beyond a shred of doubt. That place which on a morning walk you lovingly compare to Dwarka has now become that, due to the mercy of the dust of your lotus feet. Speaking through Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declares to the conditioned souls, Ami bina bandhu ar ke ache tomar. Other than myself, you have no friend in this world. Where is friendship other than in you, Srila Prabhupada? In this world, friendship is empty, meaningless. It is based on mutual exploitation and ends only in misery. You, however, have been empowered to introduce everyone to the Supreme Friend, Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu, whose friendship is unconditional and eternal. In this way, you are the truest friend of anyone in this world, and only you can actually bring substance and meaning to the word. It is absurd to think we can adequately glorify you, Srila Prabhupada. What can an ant understand of the intricacies of human culture and behavior, or a frog of the expanse of the ocean? How much can we really appreciate you or what you have given us? Not enough, surely. We do, however, know you as the founder Acharya of ISKCON and the BBT, and as the one who cared to come save us. We also know that anything is possible by your mercy. Thus, with the hope of obtaining but a drop of that divine mercy, we pray to continue to expand our feeble attempts to spread your glories and the glories of the Lord in San Diego and throughout the world. Your servants at New Govardhan Dham, San Diego, California. Hare Krishna.
Anybody on this side? Oh. All right, maybe, yeah. Do you have something like that? Okay. 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 Hare Krishna. So I'm going to read this offering from Kanchan Bala Mata. Some of you, probably, I don't know if there's anyone here, but some of you may not know exactly who Kanchan Bala is. Kanchan Bala joined the movement in 1966, I believe, in 26 Second Avenue. And then she went to Boston and she met Madhusudan there, and they were married for many, many years. And of course, Chintamani is their daughter. And over the years, when she would come and read her offerings, I was just stunned. Very, very wonderful remembrances of Prabhupada and her. So I'm not going to be able to do justice to her personality here, but I'm sure this is in that category. And for one reason or another, she couldn't be here at this time, although she was here earlier. Okay, dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most humble obeisances at the dust of your transcendental lotus feet. It is your unfathomable kindness and grace that you allow me to be here in your loving service. By taking refuge in you, along with following your divine instructions and devotional service, there is truly relief. Also, immersing in your pastimes and exalted qualities, which are really spiritually uplifting, genuinely joyful, sobering, and with such wit and humor altogether in so many variegated instances, is such ambrosia to relish and hear. Srila Prabhupada, being the most compassionate, so that was in the second person, now she's speaking. Srila Prabhupada, being the most compassionate, he was the most expert too, knowing how to engage everyone in devotional service one way or another. Right from the start, Srila Prabhupada revealed that to us. Many times, when His Divine Grace would take his morning walks, Srila Prabhupada would greet passers-by, "Good morning," instead of "Hare Krishna," as they would reciprocate in positive response. Just that nice mood, interacting with a pure devotee of Krishna, is such a benefit to these souls, steering them closer toward Krishna. One pastime I had read and recorded years ago struck a chord of sheer appreciation of Srila Prabhupada when it was time. Oh boy, she has just a little note here. When engaged in preaching, speaking mundane topics was Maya to the general public. Srila Prabhupada would instead connect in a practical way, being a way of effective preaching according to each individual's receptivity and capacity. One day, Srila Prabhupada and a group of devotees walked by a convalescent home. An elderly woman in her late 80s approached Srila Prabhupada, starting a regular conversation. She told His Divine Grace about what had happened in her life and the pain she was going through. Srila Prabhupada didn't shun her and or engage her in hardcore preaching, but engaged by conversing with her. At the end, she said goodbye and wished Srila Prabhupada the best of luck. Then Srila Prabhupada in turn said, "I wish you the best of luck." Such profound mercy as he bestowed his priceless blessings upon her. Srila Prabhupada was and is so instructive. In a letter he wrote in 1968, he says, quote, "To surrender to Krishna all at once is not generally possible. But as we serve Krishna more and more, we gradually become more and more surrendered at His lotus feet. So you please continue to serve Krishna in these ways you have mentioned, and do not feel that your service is any less valuable than that of others. In the transcendental loving service of the Lord, it doesn't matter whether we are working, cooking, painting, writing, chanting, or whatever. They are all the same. There are no such distinctions of higher and lower on the transcendental platform. The important thing is that we are engaging our time and energy in the service of the Lord. After all, we are so tiny. What can we do? Krishna sees simply that this time is being spent in his service. Close quote. It just emanated Srila Prabhupada's humility and succinct realization of Krishna being all perfect, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. So this was that letter that I just read and she's describing. And chanting, glorifying Srila Prabhupada every day, the lotus feet of our spiritual master, is the only way we can attain pure devotional service. Close quote. It is stated in the prayers of the personified Vedas in Krishna book, chapter, well, it's not 18, 87, stressing the need of having a bona fide spiritual master. Quote, our dear Lord, although great mystic yogis have full control over the elephant of the mind and the hurricane of the senses, unless they take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, they fall victim to the material influence and never become successful in their attempts at self-realization. Such unguided persons are compared to merchants going to sea on a ship without a captain. Therefore, by his personal attempts, no one can get free from the clutches of material nature. One has to accept a bona fide spiritual master and work according to his directions. Then it is possible to cross over the nescience of material conditions. Close quote from the Krishna book. Just showing the dire importance of taking shelter of such a bona fide spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Such amazing mercy I cannot fully comprehend, and am so grateful at the same time. Another sweet pastime exhibiting Srila Prabhupada's caring guidance and encouragement. There was an Indian couple who came to the temple. Srila Prabhupada asked the wife to sew a skirt for Srimati Tulsi Devi in his quarters. She was happy to do service, but panicked, fearing she wasn't a good seamstress, that the skirt she would make would not turn out. She then sewed it and brought it to the temple upon completion. The devotees saw it and said it wasn't nice. Immediately the wife started to cry. Shortly after, Srila Prabhupada came back from his walk, saw Srimati Tulsi Devi's new skirt and said it was beautiful. And again, the wife started crying, this time in bliss. Just pleasing Srila Prabhupada is the perfection, changing everything all around. I know I have no qualifications and am definitely limited, but I am so very grateful in my heart, being engaged in endeavoring to serve you in my humble capacity. Praying to be forever your devoted spiritual daughter and disciple, Kanchan Bala Dasi. She joined, she was I think 17 when she joined in 1966, 67. There's a wonderful photograph of the Boston devotees, probably around 68 at most. There's Kanchan Bala, looking about 18 years old, and about three devotees down is Madhusudan, also looking maybe 20, you know. And there's also these other devotees who I recognize. Blissful picture. Prabhu, please come.
Stay. Amagena tamanandasya gananjana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam jena tasmai Sri Gurave namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminata Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachare Satarni. So thank you. Hare Krishna. I need to apologize in advance that I have to read this from the book because this is the tribute book, yeah. My dear Srila Prabhupada, how can I even begin to offer tribute to the one who saved my life? There are no words that can adequately convey the importance of what you achieved, and whatever words I contribute here have already been written countless times before. Yet you tolerate my feeble attempts at glorifying you. Such is your mercy. You showed us the path by which we can save ourselves, and that path is by rendering service to the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Nobody in this modern world has exhibited the 26 qualities of a devotee more than yourself. Therefore, even so many years after your departure, we can all still benefit from these offerings. That is but one feature of your munificence. Although I had never demonstrated any qualification or devotional sentiment, somehow or other, by your compassionate glance so many years ago, you took root in my heart. And that seed of love you planted has sprouted to become a mighty tree that continues to bear unlimited fruits. I have heard this same account from many other souls, and yet this is only but one of your mystic potencies. When you announced that the spiritual master should be worshipped the same as God, many of your followers blanched. I myself didn't understand it at the time. Now that the seed of love has grown in my heart, I can see the validity of that statement. Just as Krishna is all attractive, so you have included so many aspects of your Just as Krishna is all attractive, so you have included so many aspects to your service that one can approach you from practically any angle of vision. You have accepted service from scholars, scientists, artists, cooks, musicians, writers, philosophers, engineers, military leaders, politicians, laborers, and even those like me who have no capabilities, but are simply suffering the pangs of the material world. Anyone can bring themselves to you, and you are so compassionate, you accept all of our offerings. This is impossible in the material world. The only place such things can occur is the spiritual world. Therefore, we must conclude that wherever you go is Vrindavan. My dear Srila Prabhupada, I pray you never give up on this useless soul. After a lifetime of floundering like an armless man in a turbulent sea, I am now in a whirlpool circling the drain. Your love is my only refuge. Your eternal debtor, Vaikunthadev Das.
Kanchan Bala, I'm so sorry, we read your offering already. Just came in. If we have time, you can definitely read it. It'll be 100 times better than my reading, I'm sure. So, Govardhan, you have something? Yes. Please read. And anyone else, please, afterward, raise your hand and we'll try to accommodate you. We have time.
Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnana Janashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Shunyuvari Paschatya Discharini. So those who have heard the Vyasa Puja offerings, they know that what Sureshwar calls a crybaby right here. So I'm going to try not to be too emotional this year. So, dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet.
I hope you are satisfied with how your ISKCON movement is progressing. I know we are imperfect with many shortcomings and weaknesses of heart, but your disciples and grand disciples are trying their best to keep ISKCON moving forward in the right directions. Whenever I think of the difficulties I face in my devotional life, these are nothing compared to all the sacrifices you made coming to the West. All odds were against you. Your godbrothers were not very supportive. You were not in good health. You were an elderly man, and you arrived all by yourself, leaving Sri Vrindavan Dham behind. Of course, you said you were never alone. Your spiritual master and the holy name are always with you. These are just some of the external struggles mentioned in your books, lectures, and talks with your disciples. We can't comprehend the full extent of your compassion while enduring these hardships in order to give us all Krishna consciousness. We eternally thank you, Srila Prabhupada. With this being said, your efforts did not go to waste. Not only are there many ISKCON temples around the world, but your books are being distributed every day in almost every country. By your divine grace, books, devotees of Lord Krishna are manifesting throughout the world. Being a useless fool, I am somewhat capable of distributing your transcendental books. When I go out on Sankirtan, I try to imbibe your mood of compassion towards everyone Krishna sends my way. Due to ignorance, they neither know the goal of life, nor do they know the horrible sufferings awaiting them. What is their hope? Who will tell them that their efforts for a comfortable material life are useless? Who will awake them from their meaningless temporary dreams of material enjoyment? The complete answer to these questions are through book distribution, prasadam distribution, and Harinam Sankirtan. This is an opportunity to associate with your devotees. Everyone benefits. The person who gives books, the person who reads your books, and anyone who touches or sees your books, they are all benefited. How wonderful and merciful is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement in Kali Yuga. I hope my small efforts are good enough to count as service to your lotus feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. From an insignificant servant of your servant, Govardhan Das. Trying.
I don't want to single anyone out, but feel is open. If you have something you'd like to read, or just offer spontaneously, now's the time. I'm sorry? No, you have to read it from here. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Vaschatadeshatarine. As I was reflecting on Srila Prabhupada's contribution, I was just thinking, being great on this is the day, especially, but in general every day when I pay obeisances to Prabhupada, I just try to reflect Prabhupada's contribution to this world. I mean, there's a song His Holiness Jayapataka Goswami had written some years ago. He says, if Prabhupada, Jadi Prabhupada na hoita tabe ki hoita. If Prabhupada wasn't there, what would happen to this world? And although I was, in fact, fortunate enough to meet many of Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, and before joining school, Gurukul in Mayapur, I was fortunate to see many of them, but I wasn't really attracted, or, I mean, sometimes I think now what would happen if Prabhupada wasn't there. Like I don't think I would join any Gaudiya Moths or anything, but it's just amazing. So reflecting on that thought, it's like I was just thinking about it. So I just
I just wrote down a little bit, just a few a little bit. Dear Srila Prabhupada, on this most auspicious day, I offer millions of Dandavat Pranam as a small token of gratitude for the sacrifice you made. And went through all the trouble and difficulties and the contribution you made to this world. In the same mood of Prahlad as stated in Bhagavatam 7:943, that my only concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining this family, society and country. I'm simply concerned with love for them. So this is a Prahlad Maharaj's quote. The expression of your love for humankind is a long list. We can simply name a few. The scripture, deity worship, devotee association, revealing the holy dham, prasad distribution, school, cow protection, and so on. So on this glorious day, I pray, please bless me that I can imbibe a little mood of yours and distribute this love to others and bring the conditioned soul to you and Krishna as a perfected soul ready to go home back to Godhead. So this is a small realization I had about Prabhupada. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So, the invitation is open. Old, newer. Anyone who wants to say something, even a few words. Dvijamani Prabhu. And then if there's we have, 11 till 11:15, I believe, right? Okay. So if there's a lull, I'm going to read some of the offerings from legendary figures like Jayapataka Swami and Gopal Krishna Maharaj.
Gyanatsimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yantasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you so much for the opportunity to say something. I was thinking about what should I say today on this very glorious day, and I realized that I don't even fully understand where I stand before Srila Prabhupada and how much I am indebted to Srila Prabhupada. And I feel like speaking on such day, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to express gratitude, to be grateful to Srila Prabhupada and his wonderful devotees, and to also ask for their mercy and forgiveness. And as we all know that in this material world there is no mercy. It's called pavarga, and we experience so many states of suffering. We have to labor so much, and after laboring very, very hard, we become completely exhausted and tired. And just like a horse, when a horse is working hard, she starts to foam from her mouth. So we see that people also become so completely exhausted from this material life, and then we look at the result of our activity and we understand that there's actually just dissatisfaction and disappointment. And then we also feel very fearful of losing our position or losing people that we love and care about. We lose things, we lose our place of where we stay, we might lose our job. So we experience fear, and after fear comes death. We too, it's also unavoidable. So this is the life we're facing. But nevertheless, I am very, very fortunate, as all of us, that we've met somebody who showed us the way to Srila Prabhupada, wonderful movement, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And now we have a great opportunity to become free from suffering and ignorance, free from all the unwanted and bad qualities, habits, and things that we have within ourselves. I remember when I was about to move to the ashram, I was speaking with His Holiness Bajrang Swami Maharaj, and he told me this. He gave me this nice. Told me this nice story that life is compared to you sitting on the fence, and you can either move this way, lean this way, or that way. And if you lean this way, then you're going to experience hopeless life and a lot of miseries. But if you lean this way towards Srila Prabhupada and his devotees, then you can experience the real satisfaction and happiness. And by staying in this movement, we can find proper engagement of our mind and senses. And eventually we can come to the path of purification and steady devotional service, and also taste and love of Krishna. And of course I'm very, very far from that, but I'd like to thank Srila Prabhupada and all of his wonderful disciples and grand disciples and all of you in this nice community for giving me a chance to be engaged in Srila Prabhupada's mission, this great mission. And as a brahmachari, being a brahmachari, we sometimes face some difficulties in our devotional life, but yet everybody is facing a lot of difficulties. But when difficulties come, devotees take it as great mercy and opportunity to absorb in Krishna consciousness and develop good qualities such as tolerance. Tolerance is a very important quality for a devotee. And we should pray to, when difficulties come, we should pray to Srila Prabhupada for tolerance. The mercy is there. Our good fortune is created by Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, we wouldn't see that this movement is going on so nicely, and carry on this mission of Srila Prabhupada is being carried on for such a long time. And I remember recently I met a person on book distribution. I was in Balboa Park walking on the main street, and I came across a family, and it was a small family, just a mother with her children and her mother. And I stopped them and I said that we have these wonderful books for you. Please come take a look. And I showed the copy of JSD, Journey of Self-Discovery. I opened the book with the pictures, and I showed some of the pictures, and then when I flipped to the page of Srila Prabhupada, she looked at Srila Prabhupada and she went like this, oh my God. I just looked, I came across his documentary some days ago. I seen his documentary online. And she told me that it's such a wonderful thing that he did for the whole world. He came to a foreign country without almost anything, and she was really inspired. And she said, now you're approaching me with these books. It's so wonderful. So she took Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And it's nice to see people who are hearing about Srila Prabhupada and who are trying to find Srila Prabhupada's association, who have a sincere desire to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Because truly Srila Prabhupada is the savior of the whole world. And he is no less of a figure than the well-known spiritual figures, prophets that we all well know, such as Muhammad or Jesus Christ. So we should be very, very grateful to Srila Prabhupada and try to repay our debt to him. And since I'm here, I'd like to also thank everybody for taking up this process of Krishna consciousness and trying to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission to the best of your ability. We are a big family, big Krishna's family, Achyuta Gotra. And I also would like to please beg your forgiveness if I have misbehaved around you or made an offense due to my ignorance and lack of awareness. Please forgive me. Thank you very much. Krishna.
Jai Hare Krishna, everyone. Wow. Remember last year when they asked me to come up, I didn't know I'd be asked. And it's only 15 feet away, and it's such a different experience to be talking to the congregation. So I'm usually so casual, so I feel like I have to kind of bring something of real merit. I had a couple points that I had thought about, and so Mahabharat Prabhu, he made a really good point earlier about friendship, and I was thinking about that from the aspect of how much my friendships have grown and changed over the last couple of years being in the ashram. I was thinking, just looking at my phone when I came in, it's, not that many devotee names, and now it's all devotee names and just a few non-devotee names. And those names seem to get buried amongst more and more devotee names all the time. And there's a really nice experience where sometimes people show up to the temple, and the second they walk on the property and you see them, you just feel good. You just want to laugh. There's some really nice souls that come to the temple. What to speak of the brahmacharis that I live with upstairs. And I remember His Grace Vijay Prabhu said that these relationships are eternal. And I think that's really awesome. So as far as Prabhupada being our friend and Krishna being our friend, and amongst all these friends here, it's really quite a blessing. These relationships are so nice, and it's such an awesome idea to think that they're going to go on forever. When His Holiness Giriraj Swami was at Leela Shakti's home program, Dvijamani Prabhu had asked a question about making offenses against the Bhagavatam. And the instruction was that if you don't study Bhagavatam, you're making an offense to the work that Srila Prabhupada put into bringing us the Bhagavatam. And that was kind of an eye-opening thing for me, because we should be studying, at least brahmacharis, we should be studying Prabhupada's books every day. And the Bhagavatam, if you haven't studied it thoroughly, it's your duty. You have to do that. His Holiness Giriraj Swami said that Prabhupada would only sleep a couple hours a night, and he'd wake up really early, and he would just translate all night. And that's very powerful. That's a really wonderful sacrifice he made. And he was translating up until he left his body. And so he gave all he could to bring us that work. And so for us to study it, we're honoring him in a really nice way. So I, this year, want to make a commitment to study Srimad Bhagavatam on a regular basis and try to get taste for it. That was actually one of the reasons I moved into the ashram. I've tried to read Srimad Bhagavatam a few times. You get in the third or fourth canto, and it was just... So I said before I moved, I'm just going to read it and just come to Dravida with a big list of questions as I progress. So I'm going to take that very seriously now, having heard that it's actually an offense to the Srimad Bhagavatam if I'm not studying on a regular basis, and the work that Srila Prabhupada put into translating it for us. And that brings me to my last point, which was I had the wonderful fortune to visit Srila Prabhupada's quarters in LA this year. And that felt like I'd earned it. It felt like I was finally at the point where I could actually get invited there. I went with Purushottam and his family and one of my godbrothers. It was a very nice tour. And it made it real. It made it real. You could see the books that he brought over that he was using to make the translations with. He's there on the dictaphone translating Srimad Bhagavatam. And then you get to see his personal items. You get to see that he has like Bank of America receipts and like ointments with names that you'd still see in the store. So it was very personal. So I've known him through his books, I've known him through his disciples, and I got to see him actually. I got to see how he lived, and that was very profound. He became a person to me, not just a mythical figure or someone that I had heard about. I really like when I hear people say, I was in the room when Srila Prabhupada said something, or Srila Prabhupada told me, or in a letter. His Holiness Bhadrayananda Swami will say that often, and that's really wonderful. Last year I said this idea that 10 or 20 years, we might not hear that anymore from actual people here saying, I heard Srila Prabhupada say this. Srila Prabhupada wrote to me. So we're so blessed, this generation, to have Prabhupada's disciples here, and that we can take shelter of Prabhupada's disciples too. And so hopefully we can study and absorb Srila Prabhupada strong enough so when the new generation comes, we can make those statements. Maybe not I heard, but I heard from someone who heard from Srila Prabhupada when he was in the room. And Prabhupada Das, he plays Srila Prabhupada's lectures every morning in the room, so it's just nice to hear that. If you go up to Vijay Prabhu's room in the morning, he'll hear it. There's pictures of Prabhupada everywhere. So we're immersed in Prabhupada. He's very much alive here. We're very blessed to have him here. He's the reason we're all here. All of you who are his disciples, bless you so much. Thank you for your patience. As like Dvijamani, I'm sorry for any offenses I've made. I came in here very conditioned through Srila Prabhupada's instructions. I'm trying to move through that conditioning. I feel like I'm failing, but with the strength of your guys' friendships and association, I think I have a chance. So I appreciate this today. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Haribol.
All right, while you're thinking whether you want to do it, I'm going to read some classic offerings, one from Gopal Krishna Maharaj and one from Jayapataka Maharaj. They're practically legendary figures right now. Hare Krishna. Okay. Yes. So the first one is from Gopal Krishna Goswami. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. This year we are celebrating your 127th appearance anniversary. With the passage of each day, your fame is increasing. Haribol. With the passage of each day, your fame is increasing in every corner of the globe. Leaders around the world are appreciating your contribution to humanity. After Rupa Goswami resigned from his government service, Lord Chaitanya instructed him to go to Vrindavan and write books on devotional service, identify places where the Lord had performed transcendental pastimes, and construct temples. You also gave similar instructions to your disciples. Currently, we have 9 temples under construction in North India. Wow. By your mercy, all these temples have unique architectural designs. In March and April, we opened 2 more temples. One was in Gurgaon, the other the Krishna Balaram Temple and Gurukula. I guess that's obviously a different Krishna Balaram temple. The Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh appreciated the society's work in spreading Vedic culture, including taking care of cows. The important instructions you gave are: 1, always stay in ISKCON and never leave ISKCON. 2, chant 16 rounds every day and read your books. 3, distribute your books. 4, keep our temples neat and clean. 5, worship our temple deities opulently. 6, distribute Krishna prasadam. You wanted everybody who came to our temple to be served prasadam, as they do in gurudwaras and Tirupati temples. 7, follow the GBC. Quote, your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate with one another after I am gone. Everything you wanted us to do is there in your books, in your dialogues while preaching to devotees and friends. Recently we celebrated the Silver Jubilee of your Radha Partha Sarati temple and the other Golden Jubilee, that's the main temple in Delhi, the first one to build, and the Golden Jubilee of Radha Partha Sarati's installation. The deities were installed by you in Delhi 50 years ago. Your Radha Partha Sarati temple opened in 1998. This temple, now known as the Mother Temple, has given birth to temples in Punjabi Bagh, Noida, Rohini, Bahadurgarh, Dwarka, Faridabad, and 2 in Ghaziabad, 2 temples in Ludhiana and Chippenwada, your office before you sailed to America. The Honorable Prime Minister of India sent a powerful message to your ISKCON. He said, it is heartening to learn about the Silver Jubilee celebrations of ISKCON Delhi. Greetings and best wishes to everyone associated with ISKCON Delhi, as well as the innumerable devotees of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, not just in Delhi, but across the nation and the world over. Okay. For the last 2.5 decades, ISKCON Delhi has bound together the fraternity of devotees of Bhagavan Sri Krishna with the strand of bhakti. Guided by his divine inspiration, it continues to work with a collective spirit. The selfless efforts of ISKCON Delhi to render service to humanity through community service are commendable. ISKCON temples are spiritual and social hubs, upholding the highest traditions of service and devotion. The moving force behind the establishment of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada's life and teachings, continue to resonate across the world. His endeavor to further spread the divine message of Bhagavan Sri Krishna is truly inspiring. A beacon of hope for every individual and society, the essence of Bhagavad Gita continues to guide humanity the world over. Drawing strength from this scripture, the ISKCON family has made innumerable efforts to promote compassion, harmony, and brotherhood. During my visit to ISKCON Delhi, I was deeply impressed by the manner in which the temple has become a symbol of Bharatiyata. That's from the Prime Minister, all of that. Then there's also the President. The President of India's message was also encouraging. In her address, she stated, I am delighted to know that ISKCON New Delhi is celebrating its Silver Jubilee on April 5th, 2023. ISKCON has been at the vanguard of a global spiritual revival, especially by establishing Sanatana Dharma as the way of life. ISKCON's temples across the world act as centers of spiritual learning, nurturing values, peace and prosperity through invoking love of Lord Krishna. Every temple is a spiritual shelter built to liberate us from fears and ignorance through knowledge and lift our spirits. ISKCON is now a world-famous destination for visitors and tourists to learn more about Hindu culture and the great teachings of the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita, as well as the chanting of Hare Krishna. Not bad. Now again, we're hearing directly from Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada, you are a true Vaishnava who appeared to save the suffering. Srila Prabhupada, you were a true Vaishnava who appeared in order to save the suffering humanity. Your followers are trying their best to take your message to every corner, including tribal and village preaching. On this auspicious day, I beg you for your mercy so that I may continue to serve you. I do have some health issues, but by your causeless mercy, it seems to be in control. May I become a servant of all the Vaishnavas? Actually, we should say it seems to be under control. Otherwise, it's just the opposite. A little editing was a little rough this year, so a little on the fly here. May I become a servant of all the Vaishnavas and continue to serve in your ISKCON movement, which is non-different from your body. You often stated that ISKCON was your body and book distribution was your heart. You will be pleased to hear that in Pakistan, your BBT and ISKCON are legally registered. They are working actively to publish your books in the Urdu language. All over the world, your books are being appreciated. Srila Prabhupada, since I first met you in Montreal on June 1st, 1968, you have always been very compassionate toward a fallen soul like myself. I want to beg that you may continue to be merciful to a fool like myself. May your fame and preaching continue to spread in every corner of the globe. May you be recognized as the most compassionate preacher who ever appeared in order to propagate Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Your eternal servant, Gopal Krishna Goswami. And now, usually I read them all before they get published, but this year I haven't read them, so I'm picking out ones that are obviously very important, like Jayapataka Maharaj is next. My dear spiritual father, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarane. Srila Prabhupada, you have brought the mercy of Nitai Gaur around the world. Lord Chaitanya told Lord Nityananda that, quote, we have descended from the spiritual world with the express promise and purpose of delivering the foolish, the fallen, the lowborn, and the distressed, close quote. I qualified in all four aspects before becoming a devotee. You have made good fortune for all devotees around the world by giving them the divine glance of Lord Nityananda. I saw how tirelessly you woke up at midnight every night, and for 3 or 4 hours you were writing your translations and purports for the Srimad Bhagavatam and other kinds of literature. This was a great sacrifice you made, and you chose your words very carefully while writing these books. So in your presence, you held the Bhakti Shastri exam, which I took, and by your mercy, I could pass and receive my Bhakti Shastri degree. I noticed that you wanted everyone who takes second initiation to have the Bhakti Shastri degree. For sannyas, they should have Bhakti Vaibhava. And even in some letters, you said that to be a guru, to give initiation, a person should have the Bhakti Vedanta degree. And you were hoping that everyone, men and women, would read your books and would take these degrees. Actually, in 1969, the definition of a Bhakti Vedanta was someone who had studied the whole Srimad Bhagavatam plus the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And now, the Bhakti Sarvabhauma would mean Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. You wanted that people should read your books, and they proved they are reading your books by having these exams. I have been trying to fulfill your desire. I have a Bhakti Vaibhava degree, and I am studying now for my Bhakti Vedanta degree. Although I have read your books many times, you told us that to get the first initiation, we had to read the Bhagavad Gita 10 times. Okay? You were very insistent that we should know the philosophy and should read your books, and I see this as very important milestone that we should be implement in ISKCON. I am praying that by your mercy, we can make your vision come true, that everyone in the Krishna consciousness movement reads your books and gets their degrees. Is that a phone? Hare Krishna. Okay. Sometimes the devotees are very proud that they have not read your books and they don't have any degree. Maybe this is not as important for the disciples who knew you personally, but as the generations go on, the only way they can realize they can associate with you is mainly through your books. So I do hope that reading your books becomes a preoccupation with everybody. I remember how you were explaining that if someone asks a book distributor what is in the book, and the distributor says, I don't know, I just sell the books, you did not want that. They should know what is in the book. They should believe, they should preach it, they should give it out. How can we achieve that? Your vision was that we have degrees, so I want to see that your vision is implemented. Our present Minister of Education also wants to encourage everyone to read your books. I think this is a very enthusiastic and encouraging. And I pray for your mercy that we can base our growing society on your Krishna conscious teachings. Everyone has some different aspect of different idea based on the same scriptures. The scripture is Krishna himself, which is absolute, but different scriptures say different things in different situations. So we need to judge to understand how to apply the scriptures. You are the judge. You are the person who tells us how to understand the scriptures and how to apply this transcendental knowledge. I want your glories to be understood by all the generations of devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your sincere followers, your servant of the servant, Jaya Pataka Swami. And we learned last year, I think it was, that there's a long A at the end. It's not Jaya Pataka. It's Jaya Pataka. So, just remember that. Anyone else want to offer something? Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't see you come in. Pav told me. Please, you're welcome.
Okay. I couldn't print this out because the printer wasn't working. And I realized that I could send it to my phone. Can you imagine that? I'm so technologically challenged that anyway, I was happy about that. Nobody else cared. Anyway. Dear Srila Prabhupada, is that good? All glories to you on this most auspicious and ecstatic day of the year. Well, it's been a long time since the summer of 1976, when I moved into that 12-story building on 55th Street in New York with Sri Sri Radha Govinda. I didn't come voluntarily, as you probably know, just following my ex-husband, who decided to leave all our possessions and move into the temple. My parents were frantic. They didn't know where we were, and when they found out, came to the temple hoping to get me out. They wanted to have me deprogrammed, but my mother later told me it was too expensive. My brother came to visit me, but would not enter the temple because he thought it was an offense to God, so he met me outside on the corner. It's a mystery to me why I even stayed. But right after I joined, your divine grace arrived, and we had that amazing first Ratha Yatra down 5th Avenue. But I think I stayed ultimately, it must have been that cookie that you gave me from your Vyasa-san. It was infused with some spiritual potency that kept me in your movement. You once said, don't be surprised who stays, but don't be surprised who goes, but be surprised who stays. Well, I am one of those surprising ones, Srila Prabhupada. The material nature is so strong and always pulling me to enjoy in so many ways. Whenever I start becoming envious of someone who looks happy in the material world, or when I start thinking the grass is greener on the other side, I have to stop and tell myself that those people are also experiencing the threefold miseries, Adhyatmika, Adhidaivika, Adhibhautika, that person will also experience birth, death, old age, and disease. No one escapes, no matter how happy they may appear at the moment. You taught me that, Srila Prabhupada. And whenever I want some relief, I listen to your transcendental pastimes, as told by your disciples in those wonderful videos compiled by Siddhanta Prabhu. Those always help to rejuvenate my soul. One of those wonderful pastimes that I like to remember is one time you were on a morning walk with brahmacharis and sannyasis, and they were all complaining about the women in the temple, that the women shouldn't be in the temple, they're distracting, they should go somewhere else, be in their separate place. You didn't say anything. Then when you came back to the temple, the door opened, you were greeted by your exalted women disciples who had stayed back to take care of the deities, clean and cook for you. And you turned to the men and you said, if you follow these women, you'll go back to Godhead. Thank you, Prabhupada, for caring about your daughters and granddaughters in that way. And thank you. I pray that you always allow me to stay in the association of your devotees. Your insignificant goddaughter, Sampada Dasi.
Anyone else? Locally here, physically, or on Zoom? Well, if you don't have any objection, I'm going to continue reading from the book, albeit it's an electronic book. All right, let's see what we have here. Okay, here's an offering from Malati Devi Dasi, GBC. Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. As explained by Srila Prabhupada, is a quote, according to the Vedic literature, the moon is regarded as a star. The scientists say that the stars are all suns, but according to the Bhagavad Gita, the stars are of the same nature as the moon. In the Bhagavad Gita 10:21, Lord Krishna says, Nakshatrana Maham Shashi. Of stars, I am the moon. Thus the moon is just like the many stars. What is the nature of the moon? It is bright because it reflects light from the sun. Therefore, although the scientists say that the stars are many suns, we do not agree. According to the Vedic calculation, there are innumerable suns, but in every universe there is only one. End of quote from Prabhupada. You, Srila Prabhupada, are our only sun. Around you, many moons appeared, and many moons are also disappearing from our vision these days. But you will forever be that only shining sun guiding ISKCON, giving credence to those moons who faithfully reflect your teachings and mercy. We know that there are other acharyas, and we honor them and their contributions. But you are our sunshine, our only sunshine, without whom our lives would wither away. I cannot profess to know who you are, but I do know that my life has no meaning without you. Once a former disciple criticized that ISKCON members are too focused on you. It was intended as a criticism, but I felt it was and is a glorious fact. That we're always focused on you. I am surrounded by your grace in all directions, your bigger Mridanga books, and your Vani deeply embedded in my heart. I will never stop running after the dust of your lotus feet. There is nothing more for me to aspire for. Your fallen servant, Malati Devi Dasi. And now, from Niranjan Swami. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace. I am writing this Vyasa Puja offering to you a few days before the 126th anniversary of your divine appearance in this world. Okay. The year is 2022, and certain events of this year have created an unprecedented disturbance in the lives of thousands of your servants, many of whom have had their faith shaken from all that you both taught us and perfectly demonstrated to us about every living entity's eternal relationship with Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, your faith in Krishna, your purity, your conviction in the order of your Guru Maharaj, your example as an ideal Vaishnav, and especially your instructions have formed the bedrock of the movement you began in 1965. Back to Godhead was the goal you personally set for everyone who would take shelter in your movement. You then left this movement here in this material world in the hands and hearts of your followers when you returned to your eternal service in the spiritual world. However, I have observed that it has become very difficult for some of your followers, including myself, to prepare ourselves for all the warnings you also gave us about calamities yet to come within this world. You consistently reminded us not only about the temporary and miserable nature of the material world, but about the inevitability of hardships human civilization would face due to sinful activity and exploitation of this planet's resources, simply for economic development and sense gratification. The following is only one such short example. So Prabhupada is speaking here at Brandeis University in April of 1969. Similarly, this world, nobody wants war, nobody wants famine, nobody wants earthquake, nobody wants disease, nobody wants death. But these things are happening. It will happen. Even if you do not want, you cannot, combat all these. Attacks of the material nature. That is the way of material nature. Close quote. But because the material world is a place of forgetfulness, we tend to forget that there can never be any real shelter here in this material world. We tend to think, oh, the calamities about which Srila Prabhupada was talking were about some distant future events and certainly not something that will happen in my lifetime. Close quote. We also tend to think that back to Godhead is to be thought about at the end of this lifetime. Devotees recently asked me, why does Krishna make it so difficult here in the material world? I believe I could give and have already given answers to this question philosophically, but on such auspicious days as the anniversary of your divine appearance in this material world, I prefer to respond to this question with another question. Why has Krishna made me so fortunate to have come into contact with Srila Prabhupada in this lifetime, here in this material world? Our good fortune is incalculable. Not only have you given us all the tools required to handle events yet to come, but you have given us the instructions and hope to achieve the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet in this life. This one Srimad Bhagavatam 10.231 verse and your purport says it all, Srila Prabhupada. Swayam samuttirya suddhastadang dyuman Bhavarnavam bhimam adabrasauradaha Bhavat patambo duhanavam attate Nidaya yata sadanugraho bhavan. Translation. O Lord, you resemble the shining sun. You are always ready to fulfill the desire of your devotee, and therefore you are known as the desire tree. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nescience, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross, and because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them. Okay. Purport. This statement reveals how the merciful acharyas, and the merciful Supreme Lord together help the serious devotee who wants to return home back to Godhead. Lord Chaitanya, in his teachings to Rupa Goswami, said, Brahmanda Brahmate Kom Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Pasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One can achieve the seed of the Bhakti Lata, devotional service, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The duty of the Guru is to find the means according to the time, the circumstances, and the candidate by which one can be induced to render devotional service, which Krishna accepts from a candidate who wants to be successful in going back home, back to Godhead. After wandering throughout the universe, a fortunate person within this material world seeks shelter of such a guru or acharya who trains the devotee in the suitable ways to render service according to the circumstances so that the Supreme Lord will accept the service. This makes it easier for the candidate to reach the ultimate destination. The Acharya's duty, therefore, is to find the means by which devotees may render the service according to references from Shastra. Rupa Goswami, for example, in order to help subsequent devotees, published such devotional books as the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Thus, it is the duty of the Acharya to publish books that will help future candidates take up the method of service and become eligible to return home, back to Godhead, by the mercy of the Lord. In our Krishna consciousness movement, this same path is being prescribed and followed. Thus, the devotees have been advised to refrain from 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. Because in the Western countries, constant chanting is not possible, one should not artificially imitate Haridas Thakur, but should follow this method. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regulative principles and the method prescribed in the various books and literatures published by the authorities. The Acharya gives the suitable method for crossing the ocean of nescience by accepting the boat of the Lord's lotus feet. And if this method is strictly followed, the followers will ultimately reach the destination by the grace of the Lord. This method is called Acharya Sampradaya. It is therefore said, Sampradaya Bihina Ye Mantraste Nishpalamataha Padma Puran. The Acharya Sampradaya is strictly followed. So what that Sanskrit means, that without the Sampradaya, then whatever mantra you may be chanting is going to be fruitless, without receiving it from a bona fide Acharya in this bona fide Sampradaya. The Acharya Sampradaya is strictly bona fide. Therefore, one must accept the Acharya Sampradaya. Otherwise, one's endeavor will be futile. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore sings, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas Janame Janame Hoy E Abhilash. One must worship the lotus feet of the Acharya and live within the society of devotees. Thus, one's endeavor to cross over nescience will surely be successful. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for all that you have done for us, your eternal servant, follower, and debtor, Niranjan Swami. And just one note for those who don't know, he is right in the middle of that Russian-Ukraine war. He's the main guru and GBC for Ukraine, and he's been dealing with that and trying to help the devotees and preaching and going through it. And that's why you hear echoes of that in this offering. But he's soldiering on. He's really one of the exalted heroes of this movement. And it's not just him, there are others, but he's right in the middle, it always has been. Well, it's almost 11 o'clock. We have 23 minutes. If anyone has something that they would like to offer to Srila Prabhupada as an homage. Yes. Sure. But you have to give your name.
Manarama Dasi, Hare Krishna.
No, into the mic.
Oh, I was trying to avoid that part. Manarama Dasi is my name. Panchakopa Vyasa Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Parvanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. I just wanted to take this fabulous opportunity just to pretty much glorify this temple and all the devotees here, but thank you for sharing. It was all really inspiring. This is not going to be inspiring, but I wanted to say that something that we probably all always circle back to is that crossroads as soon as Srila Prabhupada kind of reached down and grabbed us and found us here and gave his mercy to us. And whenever I personally I really don't like talking in front of people. But whenever I personally get an ego or start to kind of think highly of myself, I always kind of like go right back to that point and remember like what I would be if I would have gone the other direction. And I'm just eternally grateful for that moment when I got a Bhagavad Gita. And then also just continuing to be in all of your association and everybody who's been maintaining this temple and every ISKCON temple. It just gives us all life, and I don't know where we would be without the Vaishnavas guiding us in all of your inspiration and classes. And thank you so much for all that you all do. Hare Krishna.
So this is the fruit of Srila Prabhupada's coming. And when I think that he stood as a penniless beggar under a tree in Tompkins Square Park with a single pair of car towels, and the seeds that he planted that day have sprouted all over the world. And they continue to sprout. And the fact that second generation, third generation devotees experience the amount of love they have for Srila Prabhupada, that's not ordinary. There is nothing ordinary about Srila Prabhupada. I knew that when I first read his words. And one of the first things I ever heard about spiritual life is that it's continually expanding. It's ever expanding, whereas material life contracts. It grows for a little while, and then it contracts. And I'm in the contraction phase right now, for sure. And I do know, when I first heard it, I was 17 years old. In 1977, my stepfather passed away. Later that year, Srila Prabhupada left us. I think about my stepfather on his birthday. I think about him on his departure day, maybe a couple of times in between. Prabhupada is the first. Prabhupada has been expanding, not just in my heart, but I believe in all of your hearts as well, ever since we were first exposed to his mercy. That proves to me that the spiritual world is ever expanding. And how can we calculate our good fortune? Is it even possible? I don't think it's possible. I mean, so and one of the things that was explained to me that Srila Prabhupada was like an iceberg, that you could only see a very small fraction on the surface, that the depth of his, not just contribution, but his being was so vast, but it was primarily hidden from our view. We couldn't see it. When he incorporated ISKCON in July 1966, there were something like 12 hippies or beatniks living in the temple there on 55th Street, and he incorporated International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Almost everybody there was like, what? There's like 12 of us living in this little storefront. But Prabhupada's vision was such. 10 years later, in July of 1976, I was pulling a Roth cart down Fifth Avenue in New York, along with thousands of other devotees. And that's just one of the miracles that he produced, just one of them. So when Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the spiritual master can be worshipped as, the exact quote I can't remember at this point, but you can worship the spiritual master as God. People didn't know what to think of that, but as a direct representative and as the Shakti of God, there is an element that's non-different, and that's the ever-expanding potencies. So we are all benefit. I cannot thank you all enough for staying with this program, being dedicated, working so hard, and in 10,000 lifetimes I couldn't repay the gratitude. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vaikuntha. That was awesome. I'm Krishna Kata Das, a disciple of Prabhupada. I was initiated in 1979, and Prabhupada has already left his body in 1977. So there's kind of a term of an in-betweener. And I just want you to know that from my heart, there may be different camps, but I truly believe that everyone is in Prabhupada's camp. There's a famous quote from one of his early disciples that Prabhupada's signature was shown to a savant, a seer in India, that he could build a house that the whole world could live in. And it isn't just what we see in front of us right here, all the souls that are present. But last night in the Krishna Lounge, the whole lounge was jumping up and down, everyone. And this is old and young, and from India, and from the United States, and I saw devotees from Europe. So that is the house that Prabhupada has built. That is the tiny microcosm of what was happening last night, and this is happening all over the world. So, of course, we're going to always be glorifying Srila Prabhupada. And not just on this planet, but when we again hopefully get his direct association again in the spiritual world. So to honor his dearmost activity, which is book distribution, this is what he painstakingly showed us as his example. And we have Vijay present, so I think he'll like this story also. I was very fortunate to have the association of Gaur Sundar, one of Prabhupada's earliest disciples, and Madhuha. And so when I left Hawaii and came to Los Angeles, which is where I was initiated by the honorable position and representative of Prabhupada, Ramaswar Prabhu, I was immediately brought into the Festival of India traveling program. And we went from university to university to university. And so picture LA Rath Yatra without the carts and just a scaled down version. But pandals everywhere and displays, and of course a lot of prasadam and all of Prabhupada's books on several tables. So this was the vision of Prabhupada's stout devotee Charu Das and Madhuha Das. And so I was a part of this, and it went on for many, many years. So one important story that I remember that was really quite astonishing, because I became fearless in that moment. And it's not always easy that we would lose our fear, because we have a lot of fear. And I remember Prabhupada was asked, you know, if everyone chanted like you and became as Krishna conscious as you, what would be the result? And his answer was no fear. So here's a moment that I can share with you. And it wasn't meant to turn into a book distribution phenomenon, but it did. And this is what happened. So we were in this very tight schedule, going from university to university, and somehow there was a break in the going to another university, and we went to Davis, California, to one of the first Whole Earth festivals in California. And that's where it was being held. So we arrived and we set up the day before, and then very early in the morning we're cooking all these foodstuffs, all this boga, and we had finally finished and we were ready, and Madhuha said to myself and a few of the other brahmacharis, walk around and just see the field and become knowledgeable on who we're going to be preaching to, and check the other booths out and just see what's out there. So I grabbed a Bhagavad Gita, and this was a Macmillan version, one of the big books, Prabhupada's favorite version. And so there I was walking around this festival on the grounds of the university, even though it wasn't a university program per se, it was a Whole Earth. And there was this I'll just say, confused or semi-confused jiva soul, and he was drawing quite a crowd, and he was holding a papaya. And he was being a Mayavadi. He didn't know he was being a Mayavadi, but he was saying, we are all one with God. In fact, we're all the same as this papaya. And he would hold the papaya up when he would say this. So there I am, and I had just got through with several weeks of Ramaswara Prabhu's expert, deep understanding of Achinta Bheda Veda Tattva. And so I just held up Prabhupada's book, and I said, you're only half correct. And everyone turned and looked at me, and there I am, shaved up and in a saffron dhoti and kurta. And I said, if you want to know the other half of what this man is saying, you follow me to our booth, where I will give you one of these books, and you can read about the truth, the whole truth, because what this man is saying is only half correct. Now, that wasn't me saying that. That was Prabhupada just taking me as an instrument. And to that point, I had suddenly this following that this papaya guy had, following me to the Festival of India booth, where we not only distributed cases of Bhagavad Gitas, but pakora boats. I don't know if you guys remember some of the older devotees. It was a small paper, I don't know what you call it, like a bowl, but French fries used to go in them. So we would buy these from Smart and Final, and we would put pakoras and chutney. And we called them flower boats. That was because we used cauliflower as our pakoras. So we were distributing hundreds and hundreds of flower boats and cases of Bhagavad Gitas. And it is this kind of effect that Prabhupada has on all of us, right? When we're here, there's no fear. This is our family. We're home. I go home where I lay my body down and take care of my family. But when I come here, this is where my real family is. And I'm always trying to get my family to come here and meet my real family. And my mother's been here a few times and gotten your association, and she's very appreciative of that. And she talks about Dravida and Badri Narayan and all the time. Always talks about them. How are they doing and what are they up to? So this is just one tiny story from my small window into the spiritual world, but this is the kind of effect that Prabhupada has on all of us. So thank you for letting me share, and thank you for being my family. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
So I just have a brief reading here. I wrote an offering, and then Gaur Keshava could go. I think we have enough time. So it's a little personal, but we're, as Krishna Katha was saying, we're amongst family, so personal. So this is, Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you and your sincere followers. I am initiated by your dear disciple, His Holiness Giriraj Swami. Therefore, I am naturally your grand disciple. And as nature has it, the grandfather is more merciful than the father. Therefore, on this auspicious day of your appearance, I am shamelessly asking for your blessings. I met you in the form of your books when I was 16 years old, and ever since then I have been connected to you. I have spent the last 18 years trying to serve you, your mission, and the devotees of your movement. Despite my many shortcomings, you have allowed me to stay within the association of the devotees, and I humbly thank you for this benediction. It is by their association that one can become free from Maya, illusion. Of course, it is not automatic. If one is determined to remain hard-hearted, hypocritical, and a fault finder, there is always a way. Krishna will reluctantly fulfill such low desires. I do not wish to go into details of my fallen condition. You know me and love me more than I can understand. You demonstrate to the world what a real Vaishnava is, free from fault, free from the desire to find fault, free from hypocrisy, a heart as soft as fresh churned butter. You are the reason why Krishna consciousness spreads so fast throughout the modern world. Sometimes we may wonder how you did it. Sometimes we may wonder how we are supposed to do it. It is an open secret. Purity is the force. Surrender is the way. Compassion is the main quality behind your existence. We have to give up all selfishness once and for all. We have to give up all desires for sense gratification once and for all. That is if we wish to spread Krishna consciousness. But if we want the other stuff, prestige, fame, followers, etc., we can cheat ourselves with such insignificant ambitions. Krishna will reluctantly fulfill such low desires. Dear Srila Prabhupada, I have been encouraged to aspire for the renounced order of life, sannyas. My Diksha Guru has given me permission to pursue this, as well as many well-wishers and Shiksha Gurus, not for the purpose of prestige, fame, or followers, etc., but to expand your mission in service to you and your sincere followers, to preach, leaving aside all other concerns. I am aspiring to formally take this step in about 5 years, but have already submitted my sannyas application and will travel throughout America and the world for training. They want to make sure I travel well and am an encouraging figure in your movement. What can I say? I aspire to be a Prabhupada man. I desire to follow in your footsteps and be an ambassador of goodwill, a Goswami in the true sense of the term. As you know me better than me, it is not easy for someone like me. Therefore, with all humility I could muster up, I beg you to bestow your blessings upon your foolish, hard-hearted, hypocritical, fault-finding grand disciple. Please guide me in such a way that I please you. Your servant, Balaram Das. Okay. Got a few minutes.
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चादेशतारिणे. So, Srila Prabhupada, on your Vyasa Puja, one quality of yours really touched me, and that is from Sally Agarwal. As we all know, Sally Agarwal was the one where Srila Prabhupada stayed, and when Prabhupada visited there, he opened the fridge and he saw like all non-vegetarian stuff was there. Prabhupada was not staying there, he was staying in YMCA. So he said, if you empty this refrigerator, then I will cook for you every day. And, he didn't like chastise them, oh, you are eating meat, you are demons, you will go to hell or something. But he was so compassionate that he actually helped them. And he gave so much love to Sally Agarwal and Gopal, their hosts, that when Sally Agarwal, she was a devout Christian, that she had so much love for Prabhupada that at the time of leaving her body, she told her daughter that you should invite Srila Prabhupada disciples to preside over my memorial services. So I think it was last year or last to last year, she left her body in Wisconsin medicine, and her daughter actually invited devotees from Chicago temple to the memorial service. So that is the impact, that is the compassion that I was really touched by Srila Prabhupada, that he has so much love and compassion, and that people still remember him even after so many years, and and he respects their space and whatever they are doing. So So yeah, this is just one. And the second point I wanted to make is that it's so nice for me to see all Prabhupada disciples and grand disciples and get their association and giving us Radha Giridhari, to worship. And so I thank all of you and Srila Prabhupada for everything. Hare Krishna.
And my understanding is the offering will be made at 11:30. So between now and then, why don't we have a kirtan? Yeah. Right? Nothing to do. There's always